Our planet Arrakis is so beautiful when the sun is low. Rolling over the sands, you can see spice in the air. The outsiders ravage our lands in front of our eyes. Their cruelty to my people is all I've known. What's to become of our world?
A boy.
Duncan, can I trust you with something?
Yes, always. You know that.
I've been having dreams about a girl on Arrakis. I don't know what it means.
Dreams make good stories. But everything important happens when we're awake. Hey, you. Put on some muscle?
I did?
No.
We are House Atreides. There is no call we do not answer. There is no faith that we betray.
Smile, Gurney.
I am smiling.
The Emperor asks us to bring peace to Arrakis. House Atreides accepts.
I know you. There's something awakening in my mind.
You need to face your fears.
Come with me.
You need to be ready. You've never met Harkonnens before. They're not human, they're brutal.
The Duke's son sees too much.
This is my Dune. Kill them all. God in heaven.
Get everything with guns off the ground! Go!
This is an extermination. They're picking my family off one by one.
Let's fight like demons.
Dad, what if I'm not the future of House Atreides?
A great man doesn't seek to lead. He's called to it. But if your answer is no, you'll still be the only thing I ever needed you to be. My son. If anything happens, will you protect Paul?
With my life.
Only together can we stand a chance.
It's time.
I wasn't going to say anything, but you know I wanted to.
All right, welcome to the Dune Redux episode of Movie Night Extravaganza and our first stream as a Twitch affiliate channel or whatever. We did as episode 5 or 6, I believe. I guess it was 6 because I think 5 was Path of Glory. But episode 6 we did Dune, the David Lynch one from the 80s and 1986, I believe. And you know, I think that we've all seen Dune now, the 2021 version, and so you know, talking about that and kind of comparing the two is a great idea, I think, for a stream. I'm here with my co-host J. Andrew World.
The sleeper has awoken.
Protonic Reversal's own and Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends' own Conan Neutron for day 3 streaming with us.
And literally just said Protonic, finished up like 5 minutes ago. Yeah, 10 minutes ago.
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. I was plugging it.
Whiplash.
I was trying to help out with that.
Dune!
Middle
Let's
Eastern
go!
history professor, and this is Revolution crew, Djene Bajalan.
Greetings, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here this evening to discuss the wonderful movie that was Dune.
Yeah, and I know how excited you've been about this movie coming out, and I think it didn't disappoint whatsoever. All right, we're also joined by Jeremy Salmon from Giving the Mic to the Wrong Person.
Moods are a thing for love play or cattle. Wait, I got that wrong. Oh, well, whatever. Hi.
And Renee Ruin, who, as I say, always is so across the internet that it's hard to even introduce her, but she does Night Shift and has movie reviews pretty much everywhere. And I think everyone knows you at this point because you've been on at least a couple of these streams. You were on our first first Twitch stream that we did whatsoever, all together. So this movie was definitely epic to a level that I watched it like 3 weeks after it came out, so everyone was already kind of Dune posting about it for for the full amount of time before I even got a chance to see it. And I finally went and saw it, I think 2 weeks ago in the theater, and it was the first time I went to a movie theater since COVID and everything, and I wanted to wait until I was going to a movie theater. And it really blew me away. Anyone want to give some opening thoughts about it?
Yeah, I can remember that was the
before you guys say anything. It's not out in Australia.
Really?
Really?
So we have to watch it illegally. So yes, I have seen it twice, but yeah, it's not at the cinema yet.
Well, it's a
It
drag.
probably won't be for a few months. Welcome to
Why
Australia.
is what's the disconnect? Like, why
It takes a
Did
long
they hate
time
you,
for
eh?
them to put Dune on a boat
Everything that
and
comes
send
out
it over.
everything that comes out in America comes out here 6 to 12 months later. We're in the back.
Except for Home and Away, which is
Oh
fresh.
yeah. And Neighbors, super fresh
And Neighbors.
on it.
Super fresh with your
Yes.
neighbors and your Home and Away. And
So I haven't had the pleasure. Yeah, so I haven't had the pleasure of being able to see it in a cinema, but everybody
did you watch it
gearing
on
up to go and see it.
did you watch it on the big TV at least, or did you
I
watch
just
it on
watched
your?
it live on my TV, and then I watched it on my laptop. Yeah,
It's like not a good laptop movie.
I'm not advocating for doing that.
Yeah. All right.
No, I watched it on I watched big. Yeah.
So Jeremy wanted to go and have some opening thoughts on this.
I think. Well, my main thought was, this really was, especially when they announced that they were pushing it last fall. Was I can remember even being on group chats and people were like, "Yeah, I just want to," it's kind of this was everybody kind of decided that this was going to be the film that when they finally came up with this, we were all hoping that hopefully everybody's the vaccine will be out and it's like this will mark like everybody's return to actually movie going again. And I think it safely did that, and it was kind of well worth the wait. Now it's I don't know. I enjoyed it. We went to the local little art house instead of heading to the multiplex IMAX. But hopefully we can get an IMAX viewing in before it leaves. So we'll find out. One review from I did enjoy it, but seeing as how I was, the first film came out when I was 8. And I was raised on it because my dad taught a science fiction class in his high school. And so it was just, not, it's one of the things. So I'm kind of like the target demo for this. And I was like, okay, well, me being target demo, I was quite pleased with the exception of the fact that I don't think that there was as much quotable dialogue this time around, shall we say.
And even when there was, I think a lot of the voices were like so low and like did that fantasy action movie thing where some of the time it was almost like the voices got drowned out by like other sounds that were happening, which is I'm not saying like the sound mix was bad. I don't think it was, but I feel like today's filmmaking with when it's like these big epic movies, I feel like sometimes that piece of it gets lost in the mix. I don't know if anyone else feels.
I felt like it was deliberate. I thought it was like very deliberate that they made the voices like that because they wanted the sand to be like a key component of what was going on. So it was like,
and it was indeed that sand was a key component of what was going on.
Exactly. So it was like they were trying to get you in there. And,
yeah.
I'm just disappointed that Hayden Christensen didn't play Paul, because that would have been perfect. Just to see him go, I don't like sand.
Comic relief 100%. I was very pleased with the casting. They didn't go too crazy with trying to cast like huge names, but they had a few good ones. And I think I personally love Timothy Chalamet, and I thought he was perfect for the role. He fits the correct age group. He looks like he's 15, even though he's 19 or 20, whatever he is. And so he kind of fits that. No, because he's dating that older lady, that older actress.
He was in that.
Yeah,
he was
and then
he was in the Henry VIII movie. If anyone saw that, no, the Henry V movie that they did.
Yes,
one of the Henrys. It was an O. Henry.
The King.
Yeah, the King,
Yeah.
and then because that had.
Well.
That had what's his name? That had the guy from Twilight in it as the French king. Remember that? No.
Yes, Robert Pattinson. Yeah.
Robert Pattinson doing a French accent.
He was actually able to act in it.
No, his accent was
terrible.
terrible.
It was pretty funny.
He was like, I'm the king of
it was
France.
Horrendous.
It was like, I was like, you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
It's like he sounded like he was from Monty Python. He's like, I'm the king of France.
Yeah.
Hey, the king of France over here.
Some accents,
Don't make me fall through a second time.
Yeah. I did a quick look. Oh, sorry, real quick. I just did a quick on Chalamet. I did a quick look run by IMDb, and according to the IMDb dates, both Kyle MacLachlan and young Timothy were both like 24, 25 when they played Paul when they shot their versions of Dune. So it's kind of like just the two guys the same age, except they. I will say this, Timothy pulls off the little adolescent little Twinkie, stick kid far better than
looks very old.
The MacLachlan ever could. Also, it's really funny to see set somewhere. I'll go. I can show you I actually have the little collectible behind the making of Dune, the '84 version, which is worth it just for the behind the set photos, because you get to see Lynch talking to MacLachlan, and they both have the exact same hair. Like that, nice, prominent, big 1984 helmets, and it's very much just I wonder why Lynch decided he could take this kid, this young actor, under his wing as kind of his little mentee for about 12 years. But
they were hair twinning.
Yeah. And I love Kyle MacLachlan. I just don't think Dune was done right by Lynch, and Lynch even said this just last year in April, that it's one of the greatest, saddest memories and moments of his life, and he wishes that he didn't do Dune. So he's on the same page. He knows that it was not good, but I think this revival has just it's been what the readers and the people who've read the books and love the books what we've been waiting for, where Dune, the both failed versions, the TV series and then the other Lynch's, both failed miserably in trying to bring a saga together. And I think that's where this film works really well, is it actually brings it together as a saga. And you're going in to see this massive thing, rather than, I think now when I look back on Lynch's version, it's kind of cheesy and looks like it's this weird out of space kind of daggy thing. And you don't get that same level of, I don't know. It's not like, to me, Dune, the new one, feels like a Star Wars movie. It's got that epic. Same epicness about it. Well, yeah.
I think that what really shines through is that, it seems like everybody really involved in planning it out, writing it, really loved the books, wanted to create something that was a lot like the books. And it felt like David Lynch didn't really want to do that because he wasn't necessarily he had read them, but he wasn't like a big fan of the books whatsoever. So it felt like David Lynch was trying to do like a David Lynch movie that happened to be around like the same, characters as Dune. And while this version feels like it's very true to the books, very serious, not really trying to do anything campy whatsoever, really trying to get it, as realistic, for those books as possible.
Well, I think also, and I mentioned this last time we talked about Dune, the David Lynch movie completely missed the point of the Dune book because it made Paul Atreides a messiah, when the entire point of the book is that Paul Atreides being a messiah is something that has been planned and fabricated, and he isn't really a messiah. Whereas at the end of the David Lynch movie, it's like rain turns up, worms are dancing, it's party time with the savior. This one, they've set things up a lot better to kind of have that ambiguity in it. One of the things I believe that makes Dune an interesting story and why people like it and why it resonates with people is something that one of the reasons that people like Game of Thrones, for example. The first couple of seasons of Game of Thrones in the books were about people who didn't really have that much agency in what they could do, but were stuck by social structures and conditions into, making decisions which were not necessarily good for him. And the reason people ended up hating Game of Thrones is because it transformed into that just like typical American style psychodrama where it's all about like how everybody's feeling rather than how people are shaped by the social structures around them. In this, you get this line very early on. It's like Paul's like, I don't feel like doing my practice. And Gurney Halleck's like, what's feelings got to do with it? Because none of this is to do with Paul Atreides' feelings. He is just being thrust by force of circumstances into making political and social decisions. He doesn't really have much agency. And for those of you who haven't read the books, this continues to be the theme that, even though Paul Atreides has this oracular ability, even that doesn't give him any agency because he's just like, fuck, all the decisions are crappy, right? So, I think they've set that up a lot better. The cuts that they made to the story, I was a bit disappointed. There was none of the spy plot, which I think that doesn't really matter for the first movie, but I think it's gonna come back. They're gonna have to do something because things later on won't make as much sense. I think when they turn up on Arrakis, it's like they land, everything's fucked up, and it's like, oh my god, there's no rest. In the book, there's a feast scene, which kind of, it's where everyone's kind of chilling, so they have a little bit of respite, and I think it heightens the drama at the portrayal by having that. But that being said, those were logical cuts to make, given the time constraints that were placed on it. And to defend the miniseries, right? I think the miniseries was like not that bad when it came to being like faithful to the book. It was just it had like a shitty budget and they were doing it in a sound studio and someone was painting fucking the sky around it and it didn't look. So I think this one has done a really good job. And I will sort of finish on this. I've seen some criticism about there's a couple of criticisms. Some criticism about like the color palette, but I think it was nice. I think it was a nice change because the David Lynch one was so garish, and the one that everybody goes on about, the Jodorowsky one that was never done, that was like completely bonkers. I think this one having more muted tones and things like that, I think it gave it a kind of like a more heavy feel to it, and I kind of appreciated it. That it wasn't super weird, but there was still kind of cool alien bits in it.
Well, it wasn't.
Yeah,
it wasn't the type of color palette that. And Andy, I'll let you go like right after this. I just wanted to say, I don't think it was the kind of color palette that everyone complains about with like Marvel movies kind of making everything very gray, or like even like a blue that turns into like a blue-green gray. Like I don't think it was like that at all. You really just felt the overpowering like desert of Arrakis. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't. I feel like it's a little bit different when it's actually set on a desert planet, and like the desert really is the centerpiece of everything. You know what I mean? Like just even like the still suits, like everything is like the lack of moisture they really have, like the heat, everything. Like it's just not conditions that like human beings from other places that haven't adapted to it should be living in. And it makes perfect sense that everything is that like brownish sand, like you know what I mean? Like I didn't feel like any of the colors were out of place. I feel like if they had made it more colorful, it would have been out of place.
I'm gonna just disagree a little bit, because one of the things I loved about Return of the Jedi, and yes, I'm bringing this up, Return of the Jedi, everybody, is that what George Lucas specifically made sure that each set, whether it be the Death Star, whether it be Tatooine, whether it be Endor, the color schemes kind of like you would tell you where you were, even if you kind of missed the transition shot. And it's a small thing that he did, so you can make some quick cuts at times, and you don't necessarily need something as drastic as what George Lucas did. And I don't think George Lucas necessarily used those color palettes to the effect of, say, like the director of cinematography of this movie, because he really does capture light and did a great job at times filming at that golden hour as the sun setting. Where you get that nice warm color on everybody's face.
Also did a great job capturing the sand.
Yes.
This show is brought to you by sand.
My problem lies is when they're still on Caladan, and they film everything just like that time before the sunrise, so everything is a little more gray on the ground.
Gray blue.
And I don't think they quite nailed it on the Caladan scenes, and I think that Caladan needed to be a bigger contrast of color to Arrakis. It's a small thing, and so like the almost Spartan black sets of the and I forget the Harkonnen homeworld. I'm sorry about that. I know
DD Prime.
DD Prime, yeah. And also Secundus Salus, the Sardaukar planet, which are all I couldn't tell. Sorry to interrupt, but I couldn't tell the difference between DD Prime or Secundus, the Emperor.
Seleucus Secundus.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like each planet should have its own like personality. And there's ways you can do that. I mean, you don't have to hit people over the head with color, like say like Suicide Squad, or anything like that. But there are subtle ways that could have been done. And I think that is the one failure of the movie is because it's almost like it's following the trend from Nomadland, where they filmed everything at that pre-dawn moment. But Chloe Zhao really did a beautiful job capturing the colors of the sky to contrast it with the gray of the people on the ground. So it's something that's been going on in humans, not in humans, I'm sorry, Eternals, which I haven't seen yet, but all the stuff that I've seen from it looks very similar to Nomadland color wise. And I'm thinking that this is like the current trend in Hollywood is that kind of playing with the sunsets like that.
I think,
okay.
Yeah, I think I've got to go with Djene on this. I think I've got to say I agree with Djene, because I think the parts with the Fremens and then with the Emperor, I thought they were very clear. Like everything goes really dark, and it's all done in a very nice, subtle way. I think if it was too over the top, it kind of ruins the entire vibe. So I agree with Djene on that. I think that the sets and the scenes and the colors, I think, were perfect, and they are Dennis's like trademark. So I feel like he stuck to a palette and worked within the palette. Like, Fremen had their own kind of color scheme, which was the grayer, the darker, and the rocks. And then when you went to the Emperor, everything went to that blackness. So I kind of really enjoy it. I like the palette. I didn't really want to see sunsets and stuff, or like any kind. It's a dark film about kind of a hard topic which seems like a simple one. So I think I liked it that way, I think.
Conan, what do you think?
Well, as I established when we did the first Dune stream, I'm a big fan of Dennis's other movies. I think Enemy is actually wild underrated. I think Prisoners is astounding. Cesario's great. Incendies, and although Blade Runner 2049 is like the least necessary sequel I ever could think of, I thought it was actually a pretty darn good film. The storyline
I'd like to do it during the sci-fi month, by the way. I mean,
sure.
We talked about that, but I think
I just rewatched it and I was like, you know what, this is so two things. It was better than I remembered it being. I also once again find myself more drawn to the Joy story rather than the actual the Blade Runner part of it. Which, because there's basically kind of two stories in one. It's like, oh, well, that's closer to the Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep mindset than the whole thing with what's his nut and the fake Rachel Rosen and all that. But the point of fact is, I wasn't trying to talk about any of those things, and the fact that like this guy loves like doing the Roger Deakins like crazy like color thing. So I think when it was like he's doing Dune, well, of course you're going to have like the sweeping vistas of like, the sand, earth tones and things along those lines. And again, I also think this is a wild opinion. This is a different kind of a movie experience on a small screen versus on a big screen. And I got narked out by Andrew Worrell down there for buying a big ass TV, like probably the first adult purchase I've done in my life. And it is pretty awesome. And also pretty big. So watching on that versus watching on the old one, I was like, oh, like it was breathtaking. So you can only imagine, like if you're seeing like an IMAX or something, like the sweeping vistas and all that, I think it hits different. And I know Quentin Tarantino gets all pissed off when people watch his movies on phones and stuff like that. That's the world we live in. I get it, but it is.
Lynch had a famous quote about that.
Indeed, it's epic. And like, there's so few movies. There's so many movies that try to be epic, and trying to be epic is cringy to me. But
this is kind of
this movie is
inspired by Lawrence of Arabia. Like, you know what I mean? So like, kind of the most epic. Like, not to interrupt, I'm just saying, like, to add to that, to the point you're making. Like, this movie is kind of inspired by Lawrence of Arabia, and like the most epic sweeping desert movie of all time. Like it's kind of takes its cues from that, rather than kind of trying to create like a different style of epic that I think not that it copies that movie, but like instead of trying to create like a like creating its own lane and going, this is an epic lane, it's kind of taken in the shadow almost of one of the most epic movies I think really of all time,
which I think inspired the books too, to a certain degree, right? Wasn't Frank Herbert into that crap?
I can answer that. Well, I think it was also another, Star Wars famously being another film taking more than a little bit of inspiration from both Dune and Lawrence of Arabia.
Portraits,
yeah,
Lawrence of Arabia, you name it.
But Frank Herbert was actually working, I think, about a couple hours south of where I am on around, I think it was someplace on the Oregon coast west of Eugene, because as a journalist, he was researching.
Is Eugene different than Djene?
It's you have to add yes, it's more, you have to add the EU to the front of it, so it's more Greek.
She's from Australia. Lay off.
I can't say anything properly. I didn't realize it was oh, you're on mute.
Say it, say Gene.
It was on a he was as
I didn't realize that it was silent at the beginning.
It's a mystery. I call it a mystery D, because the ladies love mystery D. And
for your mystery day.
But like Jeremy is quite correct. The inspiration was his work as an environmental journalist, in which he was doing work, as you say, somewhere in Oregon on sand dunes and ecological systems, because the ecological aspect of the Dune novels is extremely important. I think it's captured pretty well in this one, as well as you can capture, because there's a lot of expository there were some sci-fi novels that just have a lot of expository, and Dune's one of them, right? And they do an okay job, like doing the show and tell. So he was very influenced by this, and he was influenced by other things. I think I mentioned before. He would have grown up with stories of the Sudanese Mahdi. He would have grown up with stories of Lawrence of Arabia. Obviously there's this kind of Orientalist elan to this movie. But the people going like, Paul Atreides is a fucking white savior. That's like the most boring and like canned freaking postmodern English professor critique of there's a lot of problematic things about Frank Herbert, like some of this like gender essentialism, some of his like really dodgy opinions on women, and his also dodgy political ideology as well. But like the Oriental...
I wanted to ask you about that actually. So I'm happy you brought it up. I wanted to ask you where you think that, I mean, Frank Herbert, in general, I guess, but also like these books kind of fall on that, because there's been a fair amount of debate about whether they're, I mean, not necessarily fascist, but like reactionary.
It's like a critique of one of the things Herbert's reacting against is like the bureaucratization of the like New Deal era. Like he was kind of libertarian orientated, and he felt like this bureaucracy that was created post New Deal, these experts and things like that, was stifling the creativity of people. So on one hand, the critique is of this decadent, stagnant empire dominated by cartelistic groups, by decadent homosexuals, all these kind of things, versus this vibrant kind of people who like do things themselves, who bootstrap themselves, and who adapt to this ecology, which in many ways, and I mentioned this last time, echoes the philosophy of Ibn Khaldun, the great sociologist of the Islamic world, who saw the development of civilization as being a conflict between the people of the periphery, who may be savage but have like a strong morality and esprit de corps, and then a decadent, tasty group of people.
You do the Homer Simpson
engaging in all kinds of sexual things. And I mean, because like Harkonnen is a pedophile in it, right? Like it's kind of implied that he's a pedophile. And
which David Lynch definitely capitalized on, and it doesn't seem like this version of it capitalized on, except for the scene where he's reading from the Black Book and then gets in his plane. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I just thought I wanted to do a Jeffrey
Epstein humor in this episode.
Yeah.
And where was the Balisette? I wanted to see some Balisette action.
There was no fucking Balisette, was there?
Yeah.
Like, where's Gurney Halleck and his fucking getting down and shredding?
I was gonna say, at least they cut it, but at least Lynch filmed a scene of them just like, I think it was supposed to take place right after they meet Liet Kynes in the other film, where they just like, you can he's actually playing. I mean, yeah, it's a Chapman stick that they attached to like a blower with a little like revolving fan at the bottom. It's the problem. You watch it and like, oh my god, that's a Chapman stick in an 80s sci-fi film. But yeah, one of the things I'm talking about, like all of the the fandom and the stuff going into this, of like how many of the film crews being fans of the material is. I'm curious if they both shot enough, and if there's enough support to do like a Peter Jackson style 3-4 hour long cuts, extended cut. It's like do what they did for Dr. Sleep. You just you make it like this long thing, you chapterize it, and you put it out on discs, and so people can watch it as if they're watching like a nice little 6-episode HBO show or something, just to kind of like help sketch out the other bits of the world, because there's a lot. I will say this, I think the film really does kind of need you to have either read the book or seen the other film, because there's a lot of stuff that there's a lot of background info that you really, you know, at least like the little stitchy points to kind of connect everything. And
yeah, they don't slow walk you through any of it. Like they don't, you know what I mean? Like, which isn't necessarily something that I dislike, but like they don't kind of give you this, which I think that on some level we've kind of been in some ways spoiled by kind of Marvel movies and like superhero movies that kind of really, really slow walk you through a plot. You know what I mean? Like they're like, let's try to make a movie that you could have never even heard of this character and the central character, never read any of the comics and all this stuff, and we can just kind of slow walk you through it. This movie didn't do that, but I also think that it kind of didn't do it to a point where it's like, you know, like I saw echoes, because I haven't read the books, but I saw echoes of, you know, the David Lynch version of it in different scenes, and like kind of knew what the chronology of it was going to be. But like I do think that if I hadn't seen that movie, I would be like, what the fuck is going on right now?
Well, I will say, if I could just interject real quick.
Yeah,
a
couple of people. Let go.
I was gonna say, I like
Conan, you
this
can always
movie.
interrupt me.
Okay, well, I appreciate that about you, Renee.
Just know that your voice has to get all the way to Australia. It takes, you know, a couple seconds.
It takes a minute. It's like doing a podcast with someone who's in a space capsule or something, right? There's a delay. It shows you rather than tells you, and I say that as someone that when we did the De Laurentiis Lynch Dune, I insisted that we watch the extended length one, which has all the subtlety of a video game cutscene explaining what's going on, right? Like it's just like, here's all this stuff that's, you know, here's and then this happened, and then this happened. And you're like, oh my god! Yeah. And if you're into the mythos, it's cool. But if you're not, I can tell you from experience, it's for people that are not already down with it. Like, what are you making me watch right now? Like, why are you making me watch this? Whereas what I like about Dennis's Dune is that, yeah, it kind of makes you play catch up the entire time, but really it's all there. It doesn't do that like Star Wars prequel thing of telling you how you should feel or like what's happening, like in this really like kind of overt, very ridiculously like small-minded sort of way. It actually shows you. So did it get all of the politics and intrigue? Of course it didn't. It's a goddamn movie, not a lifestyle choice. Thank you.
Speak for yourself. Yeah, I will say that there is that that kind of, I don't even know what it's called, but it's just it's something like the insanely long Dune super fan cut, which is like 3 hours and plus. But I did like that one because at least that one told you what the Butlerian Jihad was, which is an awesome concept in the lore of the film that I wish could kind of, it's one of those things that kind of, the real heads know, and it even gets kind of traded around either online or, like Chappell makes constant references to it. But I wish it had been, at some point they figure out a way how to mention it or get the concept out there to explain a lot of things. That said, the two Mentats I thought were interesting contrasts to the De Laurentiis one, but I think what's his name? David Dalmachian, I think his name is the guy who played Polka Dot in Polka Dot Man in Suicide Squad. I thought he only gets like 6 minutes of screen time, maybe that. And
not enough Peter DeVries.
And I think and also same with Thufir, Stephen McKinley Henderson, which I thought he was great in what little they let him do. Although they did let him do like one calculation scene, which is already going to be like a solid meme for a while. So,
well, because you're speaking about, and let's again for the people that are not super fans, let's talk about the fact that there's a whole thing about computers, right? That like in the historical record of Dune, like didn't actually turn out so well. So they're these dudes that are basically computers. So that's a lot. And Djene, I know you want to like probably want to like clarify it and fine. But I'm saying like these are advanced concepts that like I like the fact that you just have to figure out. Oh well, why is his eyes doing that? Oh well, because he's
coming.
Because he's very.
You can
horny.
watch all of the porn that's ever existed, all
Yeah,
at
he's
once.
The future's awesome, everybody.
Hey, he's a mentat. He's by nature and by training, he's sapiosexual. He was coming to knowledge, and
Yeah,
anyway.
I bet he's got some sap going on after all that.
I think the Fremens as well with the blue eyes, because they're so bright and the way they are, I think they worked effectively because the rest of the scenery was so warm and low and neutral. I think if it wasn't, they would look comical. And I think that's why that, if he had have dialed everything up brighter, the eyes wouldn't have been a key thing. They would have looked a bit
blue within blue.
Blue within blue. But to speak to Conan's point, I mean, yeah.
God damn it.
There's no robots and stuff because they jihaded the robots. But really, like, if you think about it, it's like the ultimate 60s sci-fi, right? There's like all these conspiracies, right? Everybody is kind of there's all this stuff about conditioning, right? And you get smashed on drugs and can see the historical dialectic. Like, that's what happens. Well, what happened to Forrest? Is he being?
He's sporting my logo.
Forrest is being rebranded.
He nicked somebody's login.
Yeah, he's using my Criterion channel. Right? Yeah, Max, whatever.
Toilet break. God, I'm good.
Yeah, everyone listen to my show. Here, it's over here. My bad, Forrest.
I found I was gonna say, like, yeah, if you're not like, I love what you said, Conan, about it, like showing you rather than telling you. But I found it really amusing in the last couple of weeks here in Australia. Numerous different people have seen the film, and there's two sets of people. Love it, or what the fuck was that? That was so slow. I fell asleep. It was so boring. And it's funny because some of my coworkers, they're very divided. Like, two of my coworkers was like, it was the boringest thing I've ever seen. I have no idea what the point of it was. And I was like, what? And then the rest of my coworkers are all like, can't stop talking about it. And they've watched it 3-4 times now. And we're all planning a big cinema thing. So I think, it is a fan film essentially, but I think they did it in a nice way that if you do have half a brain, so that you will, you can get it from watching it without knowing the book.
I totally agree. I think Conan is kind of correct because people are, like a lot of movies today treat people like they're stupid and they can't work things out. It's like, you can fucking work out the guy's like doing a maths calculation with his super brain because his eyes went up and he was like, numbers. And that was enough. That's all we need. We don't need a fucking monologue about the human computers, the mentats, the human computers. So we don't need that. And I think most of the things were done. Like, the best one was the way that he could see the future, because it was like, is he seeing the future? Oh, he's not seeing the future. He's seeing possible futures. They didn't fucking say it, but it was like, oh, you could work it out if you weren't a moron, right? So like, I don't like the fact that like a lot of modern movies treat you like an idiot and have to like spoon feed you. People should, like, movie makers should have more respect for their audience because I think they can work it out.
Yeah, 100%.
Goddamn right.
That's my like biggest like issue with modern filmmaking is that, everything is dumbed down to a ridiculous point.
Yeah,
it can ruin like the story by just making it. It's like over here, and it's no offense to anyone in this room, but as a general like saying, we always say like, something's been Americanized, or which means dumbed down. So like, they'll take like an amazing horror film like The Grudge, and then they'll make the worst version you've ever seen in your life, where they basically tell you word for word what is happening. And the best part about that film was that you had no idea what was happening, and it was scary because you didn't know, and all of those things. But instead, they don't trust their audience and make it like a word for word. Here you go. This is what it means. This is what's happening. This is why, like that kind of thing. And so, yeah, that's one of my biggest pet peeves with any film, is if it's just too spoon feedy.
I do like that you preface the statement with ostensibly saying, "Oh, but it looks good on you guys, though." Like all the Rodney Dangerfield and Caddyshack.
Yeah. Here you buy a hot lettuce, you get a
not
free
you.
bowl of soup.
Yeah. Oh, did somebody step on a duck? Hey.
Which, by the way, I
That was
have
Joe
to.
Biden, by the way.
I have to shout out my favorite Dune meme that I've seen, which is the Rodney Dangerfield one, where he said it's like, because I read it in the Rodney Dangerfield voice. He said my wife says I look like Baron Harkonnen. That's why there's no spice in the bedroom.
Oh, that's a good. Well, there's a good meme.
My
where
wife.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you.
Hey, let me tell you about it. Oh,
there was a good one where it's like, what's in the box, and he puts his hand. It's like the worst take you've ever seen, and you can't.
Oh yeah. Wait, I need to try to do the. My wife says I look like Baron Harkonnen. That's why there's no spice in the bedroom. No. But
memes,
yeah, no, I like
right?
it's the worst. I liked it's the worst take you've ever seen one.
Yeah, that's an instant classic for me. That's for sure.
The worst take you've ever seen. Exactly.
What did slight change of topic, but what did y'all think of the
Thank God.
We try to keep things interesting and relevant and moving for the viewer. What can we say? What did y'all think of the design of the design of the film, specifically the ship and vehicle design?
Yeah, they were fine. They look good. It was like Arrival. He made him like Arrival, didn't he? He made him look like Arrival, and it was good enough.
Yeah.
They look like dildos. That's like his main thing, isn't it?
It's dildo chic.
Yeah, I did like.
He's a regular Elon Musk when it comes to the rockets, or Jeff Bezos when they had the dick rocket. You know.
Well, I appreciate the ethos of it looking alien.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like
like that. Like,
yeah, this is like, yeah. I mean, we're looking at a spacefaring civilization 25,000 years in the future, so they kind of get a little wonky. That I'm kind of curious to see exactly how if they're going to show us in the second film all the stuff that wasn't shown in this one. Like, will we actually get first? Have they announced if they've cast Fade Ruther yet?
No, but he said he's going to be in it. But
okay. And also, I'm wondering if we're actually going to be able to see like what a guild navigator looks like.
Well, that would be cool.
But and last but not least, I will say, yeah, I will say this: I did like, I liked a lot of the ship design because, like, yeah, it's a big thing. I think I don't know if it's a big part of the film, but it's certainly a big part of the enjoyment of the film. Of like these excellent scenes of like low angle shots of like these weird, massive, slow moving ships coming in and out, or that they figured out a way how to both design and kind of like I get realistically, I don't know, in scare quotes, display what an ornithopter actually looks like and how it would move. Which I have an aerospace engineering degree, so I got a kick out of that stuff.
Nice flex.
Hey, it's not my only degree. What can I say?
Hey, you got an aerospace engineering. What are you about it?
Jeremy said, excuse me, but the little pods that look like bloody mosquitoes, that the little ships, the mini ones.
Yeah, this film's version of this wing's version of an X-wing fighter.
Like Jason Momoa looked like a giant thing.
By the way, mentioning X-wing fighters, I have expected to see like the fucking like Luke speeding across the fucking desert at one point, like when they did the as if it was like Tatooine.
I did one thing. One thing I did know.
Yeah.
Oh, real quick, just the last connection. I did this. Timothy does do the same thing Mark Hamill did, because at one point I remember noticing that I think he actually rolls his eyes back into his head right before like a big climactic thing happens, which I kind of noticed. I'm like, hey, wait a minute, that's I've seen that before.
Yeah.
Mark Hamill does it like in I think Mark Hamill does it at least once in all three main trilogy films.
He's using the Force.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's the kicker.
I picked up like so much stuff, and I was like, dude, like even like the simple things, like because I'm a huge Star Wars fan, but this was written forever before George even wrote Star Wars, and it's like sandworms, like use the voice. Like there is so much in there. It's like, dude, now that you watch it back, you
Use the
stole
voice, Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like use the voice. And I'm like, hang on, use the voice, use the force, sandworms, like everything in here is sort of coming back around. So like he definitely, you can't. Yeah, I don't know whether George Lucas has ever said that he was inspired by it, but
He
he's
doesn't
definitely
need to.
taken.
Yeah, it was
It's pretty apparent.
Yeah,
That's what
it's
I mean, but like he never actually deliberately owned up to the fact that yes, I took sandworms from there and I changed a few things and made them my things.
I think somebody once mentioned, I think it was either Lynch's like when Lynch's crew, when they were watching the the Star Wars films, or maybe it might have been like Herbert himself, or like I remember just hearing the stories of like either like the author or some of the filmmaker and his friends were watching it and like watching Star Wars or something like that and counting the references that they saw that would pop up either from Star Wars or from Jedi that were kind of like presaged by Dune.
Like there's so many little. The second time I watched it, I was just like that one. I was like, we should have a shots game.
I have
Yeah.
I have a
Every
question.
reference, but
I have a question for Djene.
but I love both.
No, I wanted to kind of move this a little bit towards so I think that, I mean, obviously it was apparent, and it's apparent in every single iteration of Dune, I guess, but like the explicit connection to like Islam and kind of like like the colonialism and like Muslim people in the Middle East, like that kind of connection. I feel like this movie makes it a lot more explicit in a lot of ways, right? Like, I mean, number one,
by having a lot of Spanish people play Arabs, space Arabs. I think Javier Bardem play a space Arab.
But this movie makes it really, really explicit that they're supposed to be space Arabs.
But the book is like, yes, because like the Dune movie that everybody thinks about made everybody white, right?
Yeah.
Like made all the Fremen white. Now it's like not super explicit that they're like swarthy, dark-skinned fellows, but like through the names, through the sort of cultural affectations, like it is heavily implied that that the Fremen are space Arabs, right? They are the Zen Sufi wanderers,
Zen Sunni
wanderers, right? The Zen Sunni wanderers. They have their titles are derived from Arabic. A lot of terminology is derived from Arabic terms. Some of it directly, some of it is kind of a bastardized version of Arabic, but certainly, the cultural affectations are like central to Frank Herbert's vision. And it goes on in the later books as well, because it's very much a kind of, Frank Herbert sees the desert as a place where prophets come from, right? So it becomes this, there's a lot of allusions to the, to Islamic history in the Dune novels, the way that the dynasties develop, the way that, like the religion becomes institutionalized, the way that there's a continuing conflict between the people on the periphery and also the kind of imperial elite that forms with the empire, and also the unleashing of the tribal energies of the Fremen to conquer a vast empire, very much an allusion to the Islamic conquest of the 8th century. So there's no doubt that's in it. And of course that has led to like the accusations that it's an Orientalist novel, which is they're not totally unfounded. I mean, I don't think, like the fact that, there are these kind of stereotypes can be denied. But as I said before, I think that's like the least interesting critique that you can make of Frank Herbert's book, because, the overarching story, which, like I mentioned, was this Khaldunian cycle, could have been written, that kind of dynamic where you have this decadent urban center versus this pure periphery of ingenious people. That could have been written by someone from the Middle East, because that was a way that people viewed Islamic history.
Yeah, well, so I wanted to, so I wrote it down, but one of the lines that Timothy Chalamet says as Paul Atreides is when I think one of the most I guess affecting scenes for me at least is when he finally kind of confronts his mom and her relationship to the Bene Gesserit, and
You might be a prick.
and well, when he says, when he's having the dream, like kind of, and he says, I see a holy war spreading across the universe like unquenchable fire, a warrior religion that waves the Atreides banners in my father's name, fanatical legions worshiping at the shrine of my father's skull, a war in my name, everybody shouting my name. It feels that feels like there really is a connection, definitely to like our conception of Islamic history. In this movie, like I think like so I kind of wrote that down to bring it up in the conversation, and it's interesting to me. I don't know.
His line about you made me a freak is kind of one thing that I didn't really realize. I just think it wasn't until I think had to read like I think all three of the first books before it really sank in, is that Paul's whole thing is not only was he was kind of like was destined to be the chosen one, but he was also he was both. I think it was the one thing is he was not only was he, the male Bene Gesserit, but he was also the human Mentat. Because I think in the books it shows like he received, like he grew up with both Bene Gesserit, but also Mentat training. Not to mention, the finest fighters that the Duke could procure. So it's kind of like everything is, it's kind of like shoved onto this one kid. And go from there.
Which is kind of the white savior thing, right? Like that's like some of the critiques of Dune, like white savior, and it's like, wow,
Well, what I mean, it's a valid critique,
and he's not a savior. That's the whole point. He's like a fucking disaster.
Yeah, it's like, is he a savior? He's kind of honestly. Yeah, go ahead, Jane.
No, I was gonna. Yeah, you go ahead, Conan. Please.
I mean, you interrupted me interrupting Jeremy, so I think it's okay. But like, I think we're all coming to the same thing, which is like that. Look, I actually, when I was thinking about it, I like Chalamet's portrayal of Paul because he hasn't figured it the fuck out yet, right? And if you read like the first book, and it's not required to enjoy the movie to read the first book, he spends some time figuring it the fuck out, and I would hope that there would be an arc that would show that growth in the next movie that would show him becoming a leader. But the fact that I actually think it's kind of bold to show him sort of being in over his head.
One of the
story.
One of the things I think is the funniest about the New Testament is because every kind of prophet or Messiah really, or whether they're making the point that it's not a prophet or Messiah, kind of has to go through a period like that where they're adjusting to the role that they've kind of been pushed into playing, let's say. And it's always been really funny to me that in the New Testament, Jesus, they just cut that part out. So he just comes back 18 years later and is like, all right, I figured it out.
Oh, he's totally hench. He's like, I worked it out. I've been I've done it.
Well, it's the same. Well, it's the Bruce Wayne. Not just Summer Abroad, but his missing decade between childhood and year one. But Gene has to leave really quick, so.
Yeah. Thanks so much for coming on, Gene. You're the person that I definitely wanted to discuss a lot of the stuff in Dune with the most, because I think that you have the most insight into it at this stage.
Well, I appreciate that. No, I thank you guys for having me on. Okay, go ahead. I got time for one question. I just got to
have one question.
Yeah.
I was one question because I think you've probably got the most insight into this. I wanted to ask you your thoughts on this film in terms of the way women are treated and handled within the film. Because also, with the beginning, and you've got the Bennett way, I never say it. When he's in there and he's with the big religious lady who looks like she's Catholic, and there's this very strict honor code with the females, and also she's not allowed to marry. And then there's that scene where when the father is dying, and he specifically says, "I should have married you." And
she gets called a
my
concubine.
question was really on what your thoughts are in what they were trying to achieve in this film. Like, she comes out with Paul and almost seems like she's in her own stride then. And I feel like, I was interested in your take on that.
I think they definitely like enhanced Jessica's role compared to the books, because again, it's the 60s. Like they have strong female character, but there's still very much this kind of gender divide. I think it was handled, I think it was handled pretty good. I don't think every story has to have like, girl boss gender neutrality. I think like there is kind of an implicit sexism in the Dune universe.
No, I thought they did it. I thought they did it well.
I thought they handled it. I thought they handled it pretty well. I thought some of the changes they made were good. Like Leah Kynes as a woman and a black woman, that was a perfectly good change for me. I felt that they made like some stronger women characters compared to the book, and I thought that was a good change. But I thought they didn't do it they didn't do it in such a way that it kind of like, it Yas Queened everything.
Yeah,
Like,
they didn't lampshade it. They didn't have to like really do an extremely loud posturing. That like, hey, look what we're doing here.
Yeah,
they did.
That's exactly how I felt.
Yeah, I think they did a good job.
It was done in a nice way.
Yeah, it was classy. Like it's good in my opinion to have more gender representation in science fiction. I think it's good to have more racial diversity in science fiction, but it's not good when you shoehorn it in a very tacky way and it looks stupid, right? So like, because it's kind of fucking condescending.
There's no point in putting characters in there for the sake of having someone there. No one needs a token whatever.
Exactly. So a series that does it very well, for example, is The Expanse. And again, I read the Expanse books, and everything is very ethnically diverse, but you don't feel like everything is Yasko and Barrett Desert. Yeah, you don't feel like everything is being like put there in a kind of cheesy way, in a self-conscious way. It just is, right? And I think they did. I think they did an okay job, and they have to deal with
There's no need for a.
They have to deal with a source material where like there's a little bit of sexism and kind of like gender essentialism in the novel, but it is what it is. It's the freaking 60s, my man.
Yeah,
it's the 60s. Like they,
It's also life, and it's also reality. It still happens now, so you can't like. It would be silly to remove it completely and have this pretend world where it doesn't happen. Either.
Where there's all the Yas Queen.
Even stupider. So yeah,
I want to see. I want to see the Yas Queen future.
Look at like it's the Yassified future.
Yeah, no, they did.
Look
did a good job.
Look at Heinlein. Look at like Stranger to Strange Land, right? I mean, it's sort of like some of this is like aspirational, like maybe cults are okay. Hey, these women are all around. It's great.
Bonkers shit, man.
Sounds awesome.
I was gonna say, yeah, you gotta remember this is Heinlein, where it is a plot point, or at least suggested in multiple books near the end of as he went, especially at least by the 70s, where the idea of time travel as a way to pull off another form of incest.
Gross.
Yeah, I mean, well, so the tag for what I was gonna say is that like must be great to not think of people as people. That was the tag for that.
Oh, okay,
so
yeah,
and that's yeah.
Gotcha.
1/5 of the words, but yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say
same vibe.
Yeah.
All right, Djene, thanks for coming on. I know you have
nice meeting you. Nice meeting you, Renee. I hope we cross paths again. And it's great to see the rest of the crew.
Yes.
I'll catch you all in the future. Auf Wiedersehen.
Read us in.
All right.
I was saying, how do you, speaking of, well, connecting to that question, or at least the one beforehand, is I'm curious. What do we want to speculate, or any open speculation on how they're how will they or how should they depict Alia for the sequel? Because it's kind of a thing of like, yeah, they had to use like Alicia Witt. I think she was she like 9 or
yeah. So that was. So I pulled that factoid in because I'm a big Alicia Witt fan. That was her first role. She was like a child prodigy, right? Like, and like she was this precocious genius child, was able to like portray rather naturally, like being this sort of otherworldly, like, oh, this kid is like tiny but like knows some stuff. So how do you outdo that? Because when you have an actual like super genius child, right, that also happens to be adorable and kind of otherworldly looking, how do you top that? I don't know. No idea.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I mean, I will say, like, you know, how do you top Max von Sydow is you know, you go a little opposite of what you did before, but like I don't know how you can go opposite and actually pull it off with her.
Can I, Forrest, do you mind if I just pose a single question, which is Baron Harkonnen?
No, go ahead.
How do we feel about Baron Harkonnen in this one? Because I feel like the clear, obviously, I'm just going to say it, Colonel Kurtz, but I think done well.
Yeah.
Jeremy, what do you think?
They
Yeah,
did.
I
They really did. Yeah, they really did. I think this was like the one example where they deliberately, you know, this one you can actually, you know, see the creakiest gears of them having to, like, you know, wrenching the wheel and like, okay, we're turning this thing around, going entirely the opposite direction from the 84, you know, the 84
over
Baron.
the top, flying around pustule Harkonnen, yeah.
Which I will say Puss Baron was you know, kind of like much more faithful to the faithful to the actual book, but you're not gonna with how like kind of like understated, I guess, the kind of just the different performance style that you had on here in this film. It's kind of I don't know, maybe like Colonel Kurtz Baron is maybe applicable. The one thing I will say, the one like a kind of costume and hair criticism, one of the many costume and hair criticisms I have about the film is because all the Harkonnen are all like it's the same problem that the first season of Star Trek Discovery had, because they made Klingons bald. And so similar with the Harkonnen or Harkonnen as they now describe them, which I don't know. I guess that makes more sense with that. I guess that makes more sense with how it's spelled.
It's not okay.
But whatever. I mean, it's Harkonnen is that's Dutch, isn't it? Or maybe German. Oh, whatever.
Well, here's why I'm
bald, and
it means bold.
It does.
I think
but for years before Conan O'Brien was popular, I was able to tell people how to pronounce my name by seeing, like, you know, the flying around pus dude in Dune. Yeah, take out the har, and that's how you say my name, Conan. So anyway, thank you.
They hadn't seen the Barbarian? Weird.
No, that's a different name. It's a different pronunciation. But anyway, Jeremy, finish your point. I'm sorry.
He didn't finish.
Sorry, Renee, I didn't catch your last bit.
No, you'll go ahead. Yeah, I was just saying, go ahead.
I interrupted you, man. Sorry.
Me over here is lagging. I'm on an island on the other side of the planet, so I'm kind of lagging.
Yeah. You're on the prison. We're on Turtle Island. You're on the prison island colony, a prison colony, whatever it is. At least none of us are on. At least, yeah, none of us are on Knife Crime Island. But that's guess for another night.
I'm gonna cue this up, I guess. I wanted to get Conan wound up on the Hans Zimmer stuff. So this is not Hans Zimmer doesn't have much to say during this, but I do think that this is Dennis talking about his original connection to the book, and Hans Zimmer's there, and I figured maybe because I didn't want to actually listen to Hans Zimmer looks like Baron fucking Harkonnen, so you know what I mean. Like there you go.
That's right. Light him up. Let's go. Take that, Zimmer.
Will say that the when I read it,
do you really have a hatred?
so it of course I read it at 13 years old, so I identify with Paul and the idea that he was like this boy struggling with a massive burden on his shoulder, family heritage, genetic heritage, religious heritage, and then him finding solace, finding comfort into another culture and in a foreign land. There was something very beautiful about those ideas that really grabbed me when I was young. Also, I was kind of into biology and science at the time, and I the way Herbert was inspired by ecosystems and the way he created all those relationships between the living things, I thought was very poetic and very powerful at the time. Later on, I think I was more drawn by the Bene Gesserit sisters, the idea that you can actually channel past voices and make something good out of it. I mean, at the time, maybe I was starting to struggle with neurosis or the idea of struggling with the problem of the past of your genetic heritage. There's something pretty powerful about this idea that I deeply loved. So it's a book that when you read it, as well as you're all getting older, but your answer was much better. The idea that I heard recently a study that says that we are attached to the song of our teenage years because at this very precise moment, our brain are more, how can I say that in English? Prepare more, they absorb things that later on you get that their brain becomes more lazy, and that's why you're going to always back to nostalgic toward those songs, you know, that you heard that create. I'm wondering, is the same thing with books, Hans?
I am wondering.
All right. So can I just say that I'm very proud to accidentally have coined maybe the first viral moment of Movie Night Extravaganza, where I went on an unsolicited rant, very unsolicited, about how much of a hack Hans Zimmer is.
Now we can put up clips. Now we can put up clips on
exactly.
Twitch as of today. So
fantastic. Can't wait for everyone to hear my unhinged rant about it. But I stand by it. And as much as like in the Lynch movie, the Toto soundtrack, again, here I am once again giving props to Toto, a band that I'm not, let's charitably say I'm not a big fan of. Perfect for the movie. Like it's a get stoked moment when Kyle MacLachlan's riding the sandworm and like, you know, the crescendo, whatever. Hans Zimmer's a fucking hack. I'll say it again, louder for the people in the back. That guy's a hack. First of all, he has a team of people that does all his bullshit. And I do say bullshit with impunity. And he is sitting here dislocating your shoulder.
Hans, right?
What's that? Oh, yeah. So he's sitting there dislocating your shoulder.
Right? You're on a
Zimmer. Yeah. Denise is great. He's awesome. Hans Zimmer blows. He's
I know. I'm just giving you. I know you have a severe Zimmer hatred.
Look, he's a hack. And
Zimmerphobia, I think they call it.
It doesn't mean that it's terrible. I'll fight him. I can take. You think I can't take that motherfucker? I'll take that guy. I don't give a shit.
I wish I had grabbed the clip.
He looks like
yeah. Actually, I think I'll go on mute, and I think I have it on. I think I have it on Twitter, so I'll grab it. The part where he's like, "This is the most provocative sound." Yeah,
I thought that's what you were gonna play, and I was like, "This motherfucker," because I've seen that.
Yeah, but no, I'll play that. I was trying to remember where I had it because it's on my hard drive, and I would have to unplug my camera to plug in my hard drive. So I was like, I'm not gonna do that. But
wait a minute. Yeah. But point of fact, it's big. This motherfucker energy, and that guy's a hack. Yep.
Yes. At any point, Conan, do you think he wasn't a hack? Like when he first started? Like, do you think he's become a hack because of fame?
I think he found a thing that not only worked for him, but that people found value in with movies. And I'm not saying the man isn't like iconic, but iconic. Look, he's iconically hacky.
I mean,
It doesn't mean terrible. It means he's doing a thing. It's like just good enough, right? So this guy does something that's just slightly more than just good enough, and he's like, "Oh yeah, boy, that was real good, huh? Wasn't that great?" No, man. Like you put in like as much effort as like a perfect example of a non-hack is Trent Reznor. Trent Reznor is actually great at doing soundtrack stuff. Like he's the reason to watch that Fakakta Social Network movie or whatever. That he did this because the score's awesome, and like he clearly gives a shit. And the problem with Hans Zimmer is that okay, cool, so he gave a shit on this one. What about the other 90 movies you've done the score on, or rather your like apprentices have done? The hell with that, man. Like that's not cool. Like I don't know, like maybe the guy's awesome. Somebody's like dad, somebody's husband, like whatever. I don't give a shit. Fuck out of here. Thank you.
There we go. Well figured. Yeah, I was disappointed in the music because side question: do you think I can't remember what the actual official reasoning was, but do you think Lynch hired Toto just because his favorite film is Wizard of Oz, and he would deliberately put he deliberately put Wizard of Oz references in the 84 Dune film. Watch the scenes whenever Jack Nance is there as the little like ginger-haired Harkonnen sidekick. Like when they're wandering around. There are parts where they're wandering
we talked
around.
about this last night too because we watched Blue Velvet, and obviously the main character or the main, the lounge singer's name is Dorothy. So we did bring that up last night when we did Blue Velvet too.
And there's even like a more explicit reference in Wild at Heart, but that's another episode.
He fucks with. I almost said Frank Oz. It's not Frank Oz. God damn it.
Although Dune and David Lynch and Frank Oz working together would have been amusing.
Yeah. Renee, hit it.
I mean, I gotta say with Dune, like sort of supporting Conan in a way, is that I have no recollection of the music from the film, so therefore it can't have been that great. Because I honestly. I don't. There's nothing iconic or anything that really affected me about the music in the film. So, I mean, that says everything there. I didn't feel emotionally affected.
Yeah, the sound. The sound design. I remember far more, and I've enjoyed the sound design far more than the score, and the other kicker is one thing I was kind of disappointed by is I kind of wanted them to say like, did anybody see the documentary Jodorowsky's Dune when it came out a few years ago? We're actually talking to the director about his kind of failed attempt at adapting. I kind of wish they would have hired the guy from that, because that guy Kurt Stenzel, I believe his name is, used all just like old like analog synths to score that, and it's like this is kind of one of those movies I wish they would have done. I mean,
that'd be cool.
I guess they
like a goblin
maybe.
Or something.
Yeah, I wish they would have done like an entire done like a synth heavy score just to. I think it really would have been great, or been maybe more evocative of the just the alienness of the world. But then again, I'm now thinking that seeing as how Denis Villeneuve's last film was Blade Runner, which itself had a mostly synth score that Hans Zimmer did work on, or at least is credited as working on.
His team
so
worked
just
on
want to vary up. Yeah,
and he took credit for it.
So yeah, find whoever his team member is who owns like either an ARP Odyssey or like a Juno 6 or whatever, even like the Yamaha DX7, and like, here you go, kid, go to town and see what happens. But
wasn't it Vangelis in the original Blade Runner? Right?
Yeah, it was Vangelis, and
yeah, that was good.
Yeah, the really weird, kind of like the weird, like high pitched trumpet synth for a lot of it for some reason.
Who's gonna fuck with the fantasy setting? That's what I want to know. Anyway, go ahead.
The story gave me a moment of timelessness, and I think that's You know, it's a pretty provocative. Let's be honest, it's a pretty provocative score. You know, it's like, you know, it's you know. Thank you, Denny, for letting me do this and getting away with it. You know, the story.
This motherfucker.
It's about as provocative as putting my washing on the line. No.
Yes, thank you, Renee, for articulating what I could not.
It's just like, no, sorry, mate.
And
then you also kind of feel in those moments.
No, the only song that I really felt like was a banger. It takes 5.5 minutes to get to the, and that's the only. That's like the one, and that's only when he's dreaming. Obviously, you know what I mean. Like, I don't
It's
know.
like
So that's like the one.
He's sitting there. So look, this is like Dave Grohl giving himself credit for the last Foo Fighters album. Good, you made a record. Fucking bully for you, man. Like, you think you're like changing music? No, you made some like adequately listenable.
It's pretty provocative. So
He makes I can't even say.
Yeah, it's beige
He
as
makes
well.
mediocre
Right?
dad music.
It's beige
in the
music.
world.
Great. You're the
The
Sierra
people who
Nevada
go and see
Pale
Foo
Ale.
Fighters here are the worst part of the population there is. They're just all like normies and jerks and jocks that go and see Foo Fighters here. They're like the worst. They're not.
Well, and
but
that's how Hans Zimmer is to me, which is like
he's healthy, whatever. But don't claim that you're being like some incredible genius.
He legitimately thinks that he did an amazing thing here. I'm like, wow, really? Like, do you literally listen to anything? Because it's not amazing. Again, Forrest, what was your first takeaway, right? I barely remember the soundtrack, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, no, yeah. And I you know, so I went to go see it with my mom because, you know, she wanted to see it, and I was gonna go with like my whole family, and then my brother went back to Brooklyn and kind of canceled on it. So I ended up seeing it with my mom, and after seeing it, I like asked her like, hey, like, I want to just ask about the score. Like, I don't really, you know, because I didn't really remember much of it. And she's like, oh, I don't remember even there being like a score, really. And I was like, yeah, like, exactly. Like, I don't you know, there's no.
Exactly how I felt. That's
there's
exactly
music
how I
through the whole
felt.
thing too, which is
yeah.
Oh, there
I
sure
was like, there is music? I didn't notice it. Really?
Music? Is it music?
Is there?
I mean, like, I was thinking of like Graham Revel, or however you say his name, who did who worked on Until the End of the World and The Crow. Like, he did a weird ass soundtrack for those movies. Like that probably would have been better if they gave him a budget to do something interesting.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, oh, real quick, but I see, I'm a Gen Xer. I heard I bought the actual. I enjoyed the score soundtrack far more than I ever did like the shitty pop tune soundtrack. And I remember I actually bought the. I think I was able to get. Yeah, I bought that score CD and listened to that like just a hell of a lot. That was some of my prime study music for the first couple of years of undergrad. Can't rain all the time.
I definitely had. I had the Crow soundtrack, the music one.
Yeah, I had
used to
both.
bang it out.
I think they're both great.
I still
honestly,
great
like
soundtrack.
even yeah. I mean, even Crow City of Angels had a pretty not as good of a soundtrack. Let's be honest there, but like it still had some bangers on it. And then but the score was mostly recycled. So like you know that was one of the downs. There's a lot of downsides to that movie. Mostly the Weinstein cut, but that's a different podcast altogether.
So I wanted to, you know, I mean, I think that if we're gonna you know, put this up on YouTube, we should probably go soon to Conan's one-liner reviews. But one thing I wanted to bring up is because I wanted to make this. I mean, it's more of a funny comment than anything, I guess. But like the Duncan, Idaho name took me out of. Every time they said Duncan, Idaho, I was just taken right out of the movie. So I was sitting in the theater. They're like, I've been trained by Duncan, Idaho. and it just like I just like it just couldn't like I couldn't because you know what I mean, like there's all these different like you know obviously there's like the Harkonnens and like you know the Atreides family and like everybody kind of has like a lot of times like you know these I mean the words are a lot of them are taken from like Arabic or all these different things and like it
Or
feels like a
Dutch.
very it feels very like fantasy oriented. Then all of a sudden they'd be like, and Duncan, Idaho, and that would just bring me right out of the fucking movie.
I was, but I mean that's kind of true. But also, Jason Momoa really was the not only was kind of like the surprise star and probably like most charismatic like guy on the screen. He was the one who could actually like the guy they gave like the one joke to.
Yeah,
and it's like it's one of those things where it's like it's like he went over so well in this one. How much do you want to bet they kind of like fast forward some of the stuff that happens to Duncan's corpse in the sequels. They kind of like just bridge that up. Hey, let's figure out a way to have a let's introduce this character a couple books early so we can get Momoa back in here cracking jokes and actually bringing a bit of like warmth and
the corpse is getting teabagged. No,
one thing I will say, like Jason Momoa's casting.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Andy. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, if you've read far enough into Dune, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But Jason Momoa's casting is perfect because he is the one actor you can truly believe who can climb a wall and make a woman come.
Oh, 100%. The dude's just solid. There's nothing. Yeah, and I believe he's a warrior.
Which that happens in God Emperor Dune.
He's like the right one that was like how he's hanging out with Fremen, and then he was also in with the others. It's like it makes perfect sense because he's the only one who looks like he could, and he looks like he could whoop your ass like fifth way. Yeah. He doesn't get good roles, and he might not be the best actor on the planet, but I think this role was perfect for him, and he did justice to what he was given.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think he did, a pretty good job. At some point you have to realize that some people have to kind of just be like, yeah, the name is definitely weird, but like at some point, the thing that also took me out of it is the amount of I should have gone and just seen it when it right as it came out to like avoid any kind of whatever. But people kept saying Duncan, Idaho is essentially Virgil, Texas, the name. So like I couldn't stop thinking about that. And then, but no, so I came up with a character. I wish Gene was still here for this because I pitched it to him first. But it's a character just named like Johnny Nevada, and it's
Nevada, not Nevada. Nevada.
I'm saying Nevada. Even on it.
Which, I mean, Johnny Nevada. Then it's Duncan Idaho's. It's Duncan Idaho's like Andrew Dice Clay cousin. That was my character that I came up with.
And base him in Reno, which would be perfect for that character because Reno is the saddest little city. It's like the plainer sibling of Las Vegas. It's kind of awesome.
It doesn't have to be placed from anything. He just has to. That's just the character, and he comes in and he's like, oh.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Look, if you have Johnny Nevada and he comes from Reno, it's better than if he comes from anywhere else in Nevada. Just fucking trust me on this.
He doesn't come from Nevada. The Nevada doesn't exist. It's just his name. Duncan.
This is a Dune character. Okay.
I'm pitching you a Dune character that's Duncan Idaho's cousin that comes in and just.
I was way too busy correcting your pronunciation. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, this is.
He can trace his lineage back to Reno, Nevada.
Yeah, it's gonna go back. Thank you, Andrew.
Johnny Nevada.
The memory. You got to remember this is 25,000 years in the future, so the memory of the memory of Reno. Oh, also they just announced a new Reno 911 sequel special, where they go on a QAnon cruise. Supposed to be releasing next month, and so given how seeing Reno 911, their Miami movie, caused me to asphyxiate in the middle of the movie theater because I was laughing so hard at the motel scene. I'm kind of curious to see what they can pull off with this one. Anyway.
No, but I would assume that since it's like 2,500 years in the future, it's they just remember what happened in Vegas. You know what I mean? Like it didn't stay in Vegas. It travels all the way there. Like fuck.
Yeah, it was part of the B'nai Gesserit's like seeding program that they started. They implanted memories on like 5,000 planets in case any B'nai Gesserit member was trapped there and needed a protective thing.
Well,
I
just like
the melange makes me remember what happened in Vegas.
What happened to my great grandfather in Vegas?
It's like the idea of Frank Herbert just sitting in his office and be like, what am I gonna call this guy? And he like looks over like at a map of the US and he's like, oh, Idaho, that's a weird looking state. Oh, okay, that sounds crazy. And then like Dunkin' Donuts box over here. Dunkin' Donuts.
That joke. I feel like I made that joke to you when we were talking about this.
You probably did. I was just trying to get it out my 3 seconds of time. So.
Sorry, what were you gonna say, Renee?
Yeah, off topic of Nevada, I was gonna say, what were your thoughts on the casting of some of the characters? Like, I really thought that the casting, like, of Oscar Isaac as the Duke was really good. I thought the Baron, but with Skarsgård, was really good. I'm still confused about whether I loved or didn't love Josh Brolin. I'm a huge James Brolin fan, but I wasn't sure he felt underutilized.
I really liked Josh Brolin having to interact with what the fuck is the name of the place? Javier Bardem, because of No Country for Old Men, where they have to go, they're going face to face. So having Javier Bardem and him having to kind of interact in that one scene made me transported back to that thing. But I mean, any Coen Brothers reference, you could do any Coen Brothers reference, and I'd be like, holy shit, a Coen Brothers reference.
Well, who does Gurney in the 80s movie? It's Patrick Stewart, right? So it's like Josh Brolin is like in the Patrick Stewart role, and
he was going to eat tacos,
and they both. I forgot about that. They both have they bring a different type of presence to the role, but it's a different type of.
Patrick Stewart brings a dog.
Patrick. They have a pug.
They're both very charismatic, but in very different ways.
Different ways, yeah.
Also,
so I dug that. I think Stellan Skarsgård is actually astounding in this movie, and probably my favorite casting.
I love Skarsgård. I think he's always brilliant. I just thought
I will say
I was like legit.
Rebecca Ferguson
I did
can
find
get it.
A little distracting that he was trying to play that he was trying to do the Jabberwocky casting of Harkonnen. But beyond that,
I think it was.
They actually did cast,
that to me was Jabba the Hutt.
Brando.
The original Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah, it's
the first incarnation.
Right. So I actually we almost got through Jeremy when I asked about Baron Harkonnen, right? We almost got through one person. I originally wanted to get everyone's thoughts.
That's why they got no spice in the bedroom.
But I think that this version of Baron Harkonnen, while a less sort of over the top comic villain take, I like the Heart of Darkness sort of Apocalypse Now Colonel Kurtz Harkonnen. It makes him scary, in a way that look, there's a lot of references to the book on this show. Again, I'm going to come back to the fact that as someone that I've only read the first 2 books, I like the books, but I also like that you don't have to have that curriculum vitae to enjoy this. And he's a freaky motherfucker. He's a freaky motherfucker without having here's all the Harkonnen family, blah 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 blah. But, okay, cool, that freaky motherfucker, right? Freaky motherfucker.
It feels like also that assumably they're going to go more into that story in the second one. You know what I mean? More into the Harkonnen side of it. So it kind of a lot of this kind of feels and they've said it a bunch of times. Multiple people that worked on it. This is kind of almost like a prequel. You know what I mean? They barely touch on a lot of things that in the second movie that they definitely want to go in depth with. And if that's the case, let's say, and they really do, fulfill that, I think that this movie is going to be cast in a way different light than it is now. And it's going to be way more understandable. And it's going to be a lot more, it's going to feel all right, well, we kind of dipped our toes in the water for this and then kind of fully immersed ourselves in it for the second one. And if that is what they managed to achieve, because I think that no matter what they're going to attempt it, but if that is what they achieve, and you get like a heavier dose of those like a lot of the characters in this, then I think that we're going to have to look back on the first movie and think like, wow, they really laid a lot of groundwork.
Yeah.
I got a question for the panel, if I may. Do y'all think there will be a fourth Dune film, and how many years out do you think they'll do it? Because they've announced the third, they've announced the second,
right,
which more or less pretty much guarantees there will be a third. Will there be a fourth? The actual like Herbert written material, source material is there, so they don't have to pull some what's their nuts from Game of Thrones, which is kind of like wanking off their own ending because they lost the roadmap. Yeah. So
they ran out of material for the books, but they did not run out of cocaine. Thank you.
The book was.
But will there be a fourth film or not? What do y'all think?
I mean, I think that those questions.
I mean, Hollywood's renowned for doing things in threes. Like,
it's true. It's a magic number, right?
That's the way they do it. They do it in threes so they can kind of do this whole trilogy thing. But then they always leave that blank spot, I feel like, after the third for like some kind of fourth in a couple of years, depending on the want and needs of the franchise. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like they have the material, but whether it's like, do you do 3 and do them really well, or do you do 4 and kind of the fourth one's kind of half-assy, or do you do 3 amazing ones and then wait and see the repercussions of that and then make the fourth, which essentially Star Wars did. It's like, let's do 3, and then like now let's start doing all these TV shows and all these other.
But I mean,
things.
but the Star Wars thing,
I think
there wasn't source material for that, right? Like, they have to come up with the stories on the fly. I mean, not to disagree.
I mean,
with you
he
on
has
that,
source
saying,
material,
like,
but like.
I'm saying like, so I'm
No,
saying
they definitely
with Star
have.
Wars. Like with Star Wars, they don't like, what I mean? So they're kind of coming up with it as they go, and it's like, oh, can we come up with another 3 stories? If they do have 4, like, I feel like that changes things. Like when it comes to like people actually making films and kind of slowing them down, I don't necessarily know the answer to that. I'm just saying, like, I think that it changes that.
They might make the next 2 longer, like, they might make the next 2 longer to sort of stop it from being a 4, but. I mean, no one's ever done 4 that I'm aware of. Like, so it would be cool, provided it's the same director and it all works.
Yeah.
If they're making money, I bet they'll make
That's
4.
exactly it.
Yeah.
Oh, making money.
Well, I see the 2 contrasts is, well, one is they're finally coming up with the 4th Matrix film comes out in about a month in America, but also the contrast to, say, Lord of the Rings is interesting because that was the thing where you had again, 3 films for 3 books that could support it, but then they want, they got greedy and they couldn't even just make 2 like Del Toro wanted them to. They had to go for the full 3 and pull out everything, and just kind of, and it's to the point where
it's the same as Hobbit. When it could have been one or 2, one long film. Yeah, 1 or 2, or they made it a 3 thing, which is like a common studio thing.
But
can I just?
I mean, I wouldn't be
real quick on something.
Go for it.
I find it encouraging and actually very cool that this movie is being unironically appreciated by the younger generation.
Somebody said it's the first movie that filmed Twitter I mean, I don't know if this necessarily like pans out, but it's like the first movie that's filmed Twitter unironically likes, and it's like kind of funny that Twitter doesn't quite know how to like handle that fact.
Yeah, it can't handle sincerity. Exactly. Yeah. It's not built to handle sincerity. Yeah. It's crazy, right?
That's why
I love that.
That's why you need a little Dunkin' Idaho in your morning coffee.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Best part of waking up is Dunkin' in your cup.
America runs on Duncan.
Can I?
Yeah.
I think
So
the like
Oh, go Renee.
what you said about the young people, Conan, like the
Who's young
people, the co-workers I mentioned that are like going nuts at work, they're all young. They're all in their 20s. I'm 41, so that's young for me. And they are all in their 20s, and they are going nuts about this film, like nuts. Like they've, never seen, and they don't know about Lynch. They don't even know the Lynch version exists.
I don't care.
And I find
It
that's
doesn't matter
interesting
them.
to me.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. But they never knew because they weren't around at any, And then if they're not big Lynch fans now, they're not going to go back and revisit. But I've noticed that a huge population of the age group, like between 20 to 25, love this film.
Yeah,
like have just been
I've
like
noticed the same.
super into it.
And like,
Whereas normally, and it's not considered a nerdy thing either.
No.
Like it doesn't come across as it's like, oh, you're going to see it because, that's a nerdy kind of thing. Whereas it's like, oh, it's this massive epic, everyone has to watch it type thing,
Did it take you guys a little bit to fully decide that you appreciated the Timothée Chalamet performance? Because for me, it took at least the first scene he was in for me to decide, like, okay, I appreciate his performance a lot. When he first when there's a scene where his mom is like use the voice, that scene, he like sounds, he kind of has like the fuckboy sleepy voice at the beginning of it, where he's just like, oh, come on, I just woke up, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna fuck with this Paul Atreides conception, and then he like kind of by the time he puts his hand in the box, like I was like, all right, I'm 100% on board with this. But I think Timothée Chalamet, I kind of was thinking about while I was watching it, the scene with Oscar Isaac, like where he's talking, he's like, no matter what, you'll still be my son. I was thinking about how we like kind of like these like very pale Victorian era looking young boys, like him, and like kind of like Johnny Depp in his early like Tim Burton stuff. Like we kind of like that look when it comes to these fantasy characters. And then whether they kind of try to procure like the British accent or do like the American accent, you know what I mean, throughout the performance, like there's this peaked look that like we expect, I think, from fantasy lead actors that I was thinking about when I was watching it, because he has like the Victorian kind of peacoat too when he's walking on.
Yeah. I mean, I gotta say I'm a bit biased because ever since I saw him in Call Me by Your Name, I was sold on that kid. And then seeing the trailers and seeing loads of the behind the scenes and all that kind of stuff of him being in Dune, I was already like, he's perfect. I was already sold on it. And, and I thought that little bit like the scene you were talking about with Use the Voice, I thought that was great because it's like, for us having seen the original Dune, I'm thinking maybe, Kyle and him may have been the same age, but Kyle looked like a grown-ass man, not a 15-year-old boy. Whereas Timothée Chalamet acted like a 15-year-old boy, but a smarter one. So those little scenes where he's like, I just got out of bed. Like, that's what a 15-year-old boy would do. Like, and he exuded that kind of youthfulness, but also the like that instilled duty that he's been put into by being brought up in that kind of environment. So whilst he still was a child, they let him be a child, and then also that conflicting part where he's like, what have you, like when he says to his mum about being a freak and like all of that stuff. Whereas like he kind of didn't, I thought that it worked really well. So, I mean, I don't know who else they would have cast, but I was happy with his casting. I'd be interested
I liked his casting.
Who else would have been up. He's weedy looking. He's weedy looking, which kind of makes everybody feel like they can be a hero. And even if you are a weakling, little nerdy outcast, you can fucking win. You can do shit. You know what I mean? And I think if they had someone in there who was a bit more like, oh yeah, ready for this shit, like it would have been a bit like weird. So you know,
Yeah, like some jock kid.
you have to have someone who actually,
Timothy,
yeah, like a little Momoa, a baby Momoa,
Baby Momoa as Paul Atreides.
but Timothy he did have like the surely scenes what's that?
Jason Momoa actually plays both roles, but he's
Oh,
sized down to look like a little person. Go ahead.
He
Little
just
Mo.
makes a face on his dick.
That's what
Sorry,
or
what did
like
you say?
or bring the that's what I call a little Momoa. No, but no, but yeah, Timothy, especially the shot of like when he's like kind of zonked out in his bed, is like the boy. I mean, he puts up. He's still got. Yeah, he's in his mid-20s. He's got them like little stick arms. So like, damn, like how does this kid like 23, 24?
Well, but and I interjected.
I thought
and
he
then
was only like 21 or something. I didn't realize he was a bit older.
So first book, he's like pretty young, and again, we mentioned that there's a gap within the books, right? Like, you know, I joked about it being the summer abroad, but it's actually 10 years. But like, what I didn't like about his portrayal at first, I found up myself liking later because he's not there yet. He's not yet a leader amongst men. He's not yet a freedom fighter. Like he's a kid in a weird ass situation that was born and bred to do this thing that like he only has like the vaguest idea of and doesn't know if he wants to do, and he finds his own path. And I think that again, what I found to be wanting originally with like seeing his performance, I later was like, oh, but that's like dividends later on. Because if like in the next movie where you see him like, you know, this is the weirding way, we will teach this to you, like you're gonna be like, oh, yeah, get it, go. Like you're gonna be more stoked because you see these inauspicious beginnings.
We're also gonna see him grow because I think isn't the next film slated for 25?
I think
No,
so. He'll be 5 years older.
No, well, even his age.
23.
Okay. Well, no, I think.
I mean
it gets released.
25,
Okay, yeah. Well, I just hope they have a good training montage. Which does remind me. I did.
Burgess Meredith on the bike in the Dune.
Either that or just, or he's learning how to. He's learning how to like sled down, ski down dunes, and they cut it like an '80s action film or something. Or
shadow boxing sandworms.
I want to see
Toto
some
playing.
more cool shit. Some more
Have
cool
they seen
shit with
Rain
like
Down
the
on
second
Arrakis?
words and stuff.
Although one criticism I do have about the action scenes, I thought I was really disappointed with first I was interested in that they actually did include the fight with Jamis when they finally get to when they encounter them. Except I thought they screwed up the. Like I did not like how they shot or edited the fight scene because I thought that was the cutting was way too quick and it was like way too close to them as opposed. But again, maybe it's just because I'm used to more of like a Hong Kong style. You can actually see, the takes are a little bit longer and you can actually see like, oh yeah, they're really, these dudes are really actually going at it without them having to do a quick cut to like hide that the actor may or may not know how to fight properly. Kind of like in the Marvel style.
Yeah.
So speaking of scenes, and I'm not going to get another chance to bring this up, so I'm going to bring it up now. But I think one of the scenes that would certainly win the most improved award is the stranded harvester scene, which is like this weird, like perfunctory add-on in the 80s one that just has, Lynch doing a cameo as a driver of it. And like, doesn't really seem to make sense, but has actual stakes in this film, and it shows you Leto Atreides, like how he rolls and how he wants the kind of leader that he wants to be. You get an inclination towards like Paul, wanting to get out into this world, but it being like, holy shit, vast and expansive and danger is all get out. And you get a sense of scope and scale, not just of the sandworms, but of how vast this world is and how dangerous it is, while no one is like shouting exposition at you, which to me, like, I think that scene is like almost forgettable in the 80s one, but it's like if you'll excuse the term, a linchpin in the in the dentist one. And yeah, you know, whatever. They can't all be winners. I mean, was I the only one that like felt that way about it? Like, I don't know. Like,
I saw the first one so many times that I just remember Jurgen Prochnow's, run, damn you, run, just screaming over the Thopter's PA at all the little like worker dudes as they scurry out.
The doozers,
but,
yeah.
Yeah, the little doozers in the harvester that oddly enough I think they took from Giger's designs. Although I will say that I thought it was interesting that the spice harvester this time around really did look like a Jawa sand crawler, because it had the same kind of weird like coloring and those weird like treads, like there was like the collections of treads underneath it too. But then again, it's like if you have any sort of wheels through a land-based sand vehicle, like you're not going to do much else than treads. So it's kind of, I guess it's design required by the environment.
Fucking environmentalist.
I do.
Andrew, you're still on the show, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. My internet has been acting up, so if I go quiet, it's just because I don't understand what the hell's going on. Y'all sound like just like robots chirping at me. So, anyways,
I've always been a robot chirping at you.
Well, that's true. But I will agree with you on this point about that scene because it's the one scene which actually shows Leto as a leader of the people, which is an important point in the book. That Leto is the leader of the people, and he has this popular charisma that threatens the emperor, which is not really expressed very well in this movie. It's kind of hinted at, but you don't quite have, you have to kind of watch it multiple times, and nobody expressly says this whole thing. I think that is what this whole palace intrigue is about, is Leto's threat to the emperor.
Yeah,
it's like Nixon Kennedy. Totally Nixon Kennedy, right? Where
Yes.
Baron Harkonnen is Nixon in this situation, in case anyone need that spelled out. But
Gotcha.
yeah, that's exactly it.
But also, and they do say
I'm
lines
not
about,
a crook.
Yeah, walking into you got to shake your jowls a little bit more to just get the real throaty.
And then also fly around the room. Yeah,
yeah, that's true. That's true.
I will not be poisoned by these Democrats.
What was I gonna say? But no, because they do talk about how, like, this is they throw around like, oh, you're walking, this is a trap, we're walking into a trap, without kind of like really, I mean, that's them hinting at it without really saying exactly, oh, this is the emperor's trying to kill them off because he to just consolidate his power base. Also, I am disappointed we didn't get we didn't get a Princess Irulan, delivering exposition straight to the camera this time. But I guess Virginia you're not going to do better than Virginia Madsen. Maybe
she can deliver exposition to me any day.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone loves her. I think maybe they just was like, nah, let's leave one thing to the old one. Maybe, who knows?
Yeah.
But I love the sandworms. I want to see. I thought they were so good. That close up where he's like right in front.
Sick.
I was like, that is amazing.
Yeah, the scale of this movie, just how it's presented, is just like it's a master class of how to do scale, because not just the sandworms, but like the part where they're sitting next to the ornithopter, and then they get into the ornithopter. And then the ornithopter looks so tiny next to like the ships and the city, and it's just like and then they did the same kind of thing with the sandworm. It's just incredible because like you're constantly aware of actually how big these things actually are, unlike some sci-fi movies. Like I mean, it was hard for them to actually really show the scale of the Death Star in Star Wars. They did a good job in it, but like you never quite got the because you never quite got the whole, they never,
humans, yeah.
They
even
did
the
a
scene
good job, but like it's not quite this. This was better. Is what I'm trying to say is showing scale.
Yeah. And the scene where where there's the guy riding the sandworm, and then they go, "That's desert power." Like, I was like, "That's cool." There's a guy riding the sandworm, man.
Yeah.
They had to figure out a way
That
how to
got-
work that in because of like we weren't gonna see any of that until the next film, so they had to get a little. Just a
Yeah,
little
yeah. So it's sort of white in the
that way-
background there.
You can kind of hint to like what Dr. Kynes was going to do in the desert before she got cut down, because you could tell like she was calling a sandworm. She had the hooks ready, again, this is one of those things that they didn't necessarily spell out, but like
planting seeds. Yeah,
if you know what's going on, and they kind of set it up there with that guy, doing desert power. They kind of connect those two things if you pay attention.
Definitely. Yeah.
I don't know why every time I hear this, but when they're like Shai Halub, like the worm name.
Oh my god, the band?
What?
Are you thinking of the band?
No, I was thinking about like Tony Shalhoub, and I was thinking about like just
Oh,
Tony Shalhoub's head on the worm. So I was like, I serve one master, and his name is Tony Shalhoub.
Yeah, no.
Tony
every
Shalhoub
time they say
used to play the God Emperor Dune.
Yeah. So I'm always like Shai Halud. That must be where they got the name of their band. So I've been trying to find out if it is where they got it from. So I reckon it might be.
Probably is. But Tony, but the
Tony
God
Shalhoub
Emperor
did
Dune-
Monk, right? That
Yeah.
was his big hit.
Yeah. But he also did
Yeah.
he did the movie with Stanley Tucci where they're in the working in the kitchen.
He's
Galaxy
Ignite.
Quest.
Galaxy
I don't know
Quest,
why. I don't know why I know
Well,
this.
he's a guy's good, but I'm talking about the movie The Big Night with him and Stanley Tucci as the restaurant owners or whatever.
He's from Green Bay, Wisconsin, so he's like from a town that's not that far away from me. Anyway, nobody cares.
Yeah,
Moving on.
Tony Shalhoub, God Emperor Dune. It's perfect.
One thing I wanted to bring up that I thought was hilarious is that so when kind of Paul Atreides is kind of spitballing like ideas to try to like I guess make the Emperor kind of more complacent or something. I watching it like the second time or the third time, I realized that one line that he says is, "What if I presented the Emperor with an alternative to chaos? The Emperor has no sons and his daughters have yet to marry." Basically, Paul Atreides is his first idea of how to take on the Emperor is like, what if I banged the Emperor's daughters? I thought that was
yeah.
Yeah, he's 15.
Yeah, that was a funny concept. I was like, and also,
and then everyone else is like, no, that's not gonna work. He wants to kill you.
Yeah. Although funny what happens.
But what if?
Didn't they didn't really spell it out? I don't think at all in the film, or I don't know if they touched on it. Can't remember now. But the fact that Paul was meant to be a girl anyway, and they defied and had the son, which is why the mother couldn't marry the Duke, was because of that. One of the main reasons. They didn't really.
They touched on it briefly, right? Like they
very, very briefly, but like it was kind of like it was just in like when he was talking about the powers and stuff, like when his mother is being told off, like you did this kind of thing because she had the son. That's kind of the only thing. It's like if you didn't know, you'd be like kind of not on it. But like if you know the story, you know what they mean, But that's also something as well. Like the whole thing with him rejecting everything and not understanding where he's placed in the world is also because he really wasn't meant to be there.
Yeah,
At the end
but
of
at the same time, I mean, they're kind of creating this prophecy behind it, right? Like it's there's going to be to some level a all right, Jeremy, do you want to do your recommendations and endorsements then quickly?
Yeah, real quick, just the little segment on my own show that I always got a kick out of is I always want to give a little treat for the listener to like tell them something cool they should check out. And
Hans Zimmer, Collected Works.
New there's a series come out from Image called Die, done by Kieran Gillen and Stephanie Hans. That is effectively, I think their initial premise is what happened if to all the kids from the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon after they came home. And then it kind of and then it starts and it goes on and then 20 years later they get trapped back in their fantasy world again, only they're now like all kind of like middle-aged English people trying to figure out what the hell how to get out of there, and kind of at some point
Jumanji movie.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, but it's both a deconstructionist and also kind of a reconstructionist style of like breaking down both narrative and like RPG tropes, but also like basic storytelling, and they even like talk with a lot of like they'll get into like a lot of deep references to like all the creators of both not only the fantasy genre but also like tabletop role-playing games and war games, because there's more than a little bit of H.G. Wells in the book. So yeah, I heavily recommend. It's only 4 trades put out by Image. It's called Die, D-I-E.
D-I-E, huh? Okay.
Yeah, and they even made their own. What's that?
Support the Image Union.
That's true. Support the Image Union.
Yep. So shout out to them.
And getting pushback from I believe from Kirkman and the rest of management, of course. But also, and all the other cool thing is that Kieran Gillen actually wrote and released an RPG like that they used to write the book with, that you could actually go out and play. Just look up like Kieran Gillen Die RPG and you can find out about it. So that was the little thing that I just want to recommend to everybody before I split out tonight.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on. We're probably gonna close out soon anyway, and after we do, Conan's famous one-liner segment. But
Gotcha.
I gotta get ready after this to go to the city tomorrow and film Cole James Cash's DJ show. So I have to figure out. Yeah,
so it'll be fun. All right, cool, y'all. Nice meeting everybody who I haven't talked to you before. Renee, hello from the other side of the world. Nice talking to y'all, and I will catch y'all later.
All right.
I'll get out of here. Let's go.
All right. Anything else you guys want to touch on before going to the one-liners?
No,
I think someone reported me on Facebook for not even talking shit, but just not being praiseful enough of Timothy Chalamet, because I actually posted something on Facebook. I never post anything like no, I'm serious. Like my actual original post was like taking down. Like, who the fuck takes down a movie review?
God, you're gonna be like you're gonna have one of those what do you call it? All those Taylor Swift loser fans that are like attacking all of her exes or whatever. Like,
yeah,
you're gonna have like, Timothy Chalamet fans.
Yeah,
I was somewhat drunk. I was somewhat drunk a week ago after watching it, and I was taking shots, and then I realized like I needed to make Timothy Shalamar, so I just put Timothy Chalamet's head on one of the members of Shalamar, and then the next day I woke up and looked at it, and I was like, "What the fuck did I create?"
That's my Mothra image of like that meme I made of like the Queen is entering a new phase of her life, and I just put Mothra. Like I don't remember doing that, and like there was all kinds of comments on it. I was like, wow, I was in the bag. All right, but good meme.
I feel like it's a symptom of
you should have gone
today. Everything is so touchy, and I also feel,
yeah.
You should have gone with
am I right?
Charlamar. Yeah.
People are writing. People writing to Smith because they're like hunting down Jake Gyllenhaal because they dated for 3 months and he borrowed a scarf. Fucking get a life. If that's the most important thing in your life, is whether some ex-boyfriend from a billion years ago who dated someone you don't even know has a scarf. Like,
I'm sorry for telling them to kill
just
themselves.
Crazy fans.
Maybe I went too far.
I'll go back and start making Timothy Chalamet millionaire jokes.
You'll have like a whole army of Swift. I don't even know what they're called. They have a name.
Swift boats.
Swifties.
Did you see? Oh, God, the Swift Boat veterans. Timothy Millionaire. Is that what you said, Andrew? That was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I'll back that.
They see me ride. I don't know. They see me rolling. They hate.
my sandworm.
Yeah, see me ride. The
Please stop.
sandworm would have been solid.
Yeah, exactly. The visual makes it. If it's just us, it doesn't work. Anyway, whatever. So every week or every day lately,
every day,
seems like it's been every day, right? We
the
have
last
this
few
bit
days it
where
has. Yeah.
we Letterboxd, a social media site for film lovers of movies and film. You are able to not only categorize movies you want to see, but movies that you have seen and give your thoughts on them. And Movie Night Extravaganza is on Letterboxd. You should follow it. It's basically Forrest. I'm on it. Andrew's on it. This is really hard. It's harder than it looks.
Yesterday to set one up. So
I guess we peer pressured Renee into being on it. And
every angle, like not just you guys, but
yeah,
I'm getting inundated with letterbox all over everything. So I was like, I need to set this up apparently. So I'm just going to do it.
Yeah, it's fun. So it's a good place for people to discover film, to discuss with others about film, so on and so on. But one of the not so secret advantages to it are the amount of people, just everyday people, not like professional movie critics or anything. You know, it's a bottom-up democracy kind of situation that just come up with very funny, insightful, or notable one-liners. So this is a bit that we do in this show. Not yet sponsored by Letterboxd, but hopefully soon.
I should have cut the one from yesterday, but
yeah, exactly.
Into a clip. But now we can do clips because we are affiliates.
Whoop whoop.
I've been working my ass off to get to that place so fucking hard. So like when I saw that today, I was happy. I felt like I had done something.
Well, what's involved? Like, do you have to hit a certain amount of milestones, etc.?
Well, so we didn't.
That's what he looked like when he saw affiliate status. He went. This is what it looked like right here.
No. So the things that you really have to do are there's 4 metrics, and I was worried because it didn't seem like we hit the 4th one, but I guess we did. Or maybe they just said we've grown fast. We've like this. It's been 3 weeks, so. We have
We're
like
sick of this
70
kid
plus.
refreshing the feed to see if he made it or not. Fine, just give it to him.
Yeah. You know, just
you earned it. You earned it. The show's good. Fuck it. Move on. Yeah, can I do the bit now?
So the 4 metrics are.
Nobody cares about 4 metrics, Forrest.
So the 4 metrics are 50 followers within a month, which is a really easy one to like a somewhat easy one to hit. And then it's like you have to get 7 different days streaming within that month, and then you have to
that's like
there's
this
like
week.
a certain there's a certain amount of
there's a certain amount out the episodes. So
yeah, there's like watch hours, and then the 4th one that I didn't know that we hit was consecutive viewers. You have to have 3 consecutive viewers on an average show.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so it's easy. It's a lot easier than YouTube, which is 1,000. You have to have 1,000 subs for Yeah,
it takes a while.
But how many DOMs?
So every episode, I pull the reviews I like best out of the different people, the proletariat, if you will, of Letterboxd, or the ones I find most entertaining, or that I think are going to make Forrest laugh. And here's what we came up with for the Incredible Dune 2021. Subject of this episode, Letterboxd. Sponsor us and shit. I guess you can say that Zendaya is now a Spice Girl. That's Shay. Good background image in this one. Is Dune one of the better movies of this year? Yes. Did I give a single fuck about anything happening in it? Not once. Harsh words from Colin. It isn't always it's always flavorful, but it isn't always favorful with these. But sometimes the meanest ones are the best.
And they're just amusing regardless.
Yeah, I mean, I gave way more than a single fuck about all of this, but that was, I'm sorry, that's fucking hilarious.
Dune Flavortown.
That's a great review.
Great movie and even better beard from Oscar Isaac. Jonathan Fuji with that one. You know what? Respect. It's good. It's a nice
he was getting that thirst in the beginning. Like I remember the first week it came out, there was like a good I want to fuck Oscar Isaac trend going around Twitter.
Yeah, because when he was in Star Wars, I had loads of friends being like, wah! And I was like, not really getting it. And then as soon as he started showing clips of him from Dune, I was like, now I get it. Silver Fox.
Oh, I get it now.
Yes, I get it.
Best
So
parts
it
of
was just
Dune.
the wrong demo.
Best parts of Dune. Rebecca Ferguson and Giant Worm. Zeminia. And you know what? Props. Yeah.
She's pretty try.
Yeah.
She's not wrong.
Rebecca Ferguson's pretty fucking awesome. Like I said, as we established early on, she can get it. Bold move. And of course, this one's just for Forrest. Doing your mom.
Oh,
did you Gotti Stan Mahesh?
I love
Did he not even write it? Did he?
Did he not rate it?
No,
Is that what you said?
like-
No, like did he
you
not
have to, like,
write
set it
it?
up.
Or was it just once?
Oh,
one
some
is
people
one-
don't do it. Some people do. Dude, people do all kinds of weird shit. Like it's.
So he
you
didn't
don't-
write it. He just left the comment.
he wanted to get to the meme text so bad he couldn't even be bothered to rate it. I guess. I assume it's a he. I don't know. I shouldn't assume that. It's Gotti Stan, so I assume it's a he.
I love the Sopranos one where it's Polly Walnuts and he's like, yeah, when I said Tone, I said doing your mom.
yeah, he's repeating the joke because that makes it better. Yeah. How many hot people do you want, Dennis? Yes. That's no. and can we just say best part of this is maybe the tags, right? With bro.
With bro seen in cinema IMAX. With bro.
With bro is an incredible tag. I gotta say, like, props to Bell. Like, this is a multi-layered badassery here.
By the way, I'm kind of disappointed
likes too.
that no one made like a how much moisture you ever lost in a coin toss reference because of Javier Bardem and the scene where he's like, how much you ever lost in a
yeah. No, that is surprising. Yeah. This happened to my friend Kyle M one time. That's Lauren. And
that is a brilliant one. That's great.
What I love about this one is it burns slow because you're like, Kyle up. All right. Who were we talking with for the like called out this style of joke and being a thing on Letterboxd? I was like, stop fucking unveiling all the magic, god damn it. But like it was like this week. What was it? I can't remember, but like this is the perfect culmination of that because it's like even if you know that joke, it hits on another level, right? It's like, Kyle M. All right, you son of a bitch, you got me. Yeah.
Yeah. Clever little.
It's the blue velvet of Arrakis, you know.
It is a blue velvet of Arrakis.
Big kudos to Lauren. I think she wins.
Yeah, Lauren. That's come on. That box had Timothy Chalamet moaning. What if he had to put his wiener in it? Lol.
Oh my God.
I cut together. I don't like there was a joke I made with what's in the box and then what's in the box, like the 7 one. But then also I remembered we did Kiss Me Deadly where she's like, what's in the box? What's in the box? And then so I realized how many movies actually have like the box as like a whatever.
7,
and, then,
man.
And then there's that meme where it's like when you fuck once and fall in love. And it's Brad Pitt from fucking 7 going, what's in the box?
Oh, yeah.
Dick in a box.
Okay. So good.
Yeah. Box is a lot of, you can put up some solid meanings to it.
By the way, can we just point out, wait, go back for a second. Go back.
Yeah.
Please, if you don't mind. That box had Timothy Chalamet moaning, 3 exclamation points. What if he had to put his wiener in it? Lol, 1 exclamation point. Brilliant.
Well, there's the
3 exclamation points.
There's that form of like Twitter joke where it's like when you nut and she keep on sucking or whatever, and it's like always someone's face like looking like they're in pain. So it's like when Timothée Chalamet's face looks like he's in extreme pain, it's like that meme template.
Yep, that's the meme. Okay, so what if Obi-Wan Kenobi was your mom? Jack Nance, think about it. Think about it. That's right.
I'm thinking.
Oh shit! There goes Dennis doing it again.
They should have saved that one for Dune Messiah. They should have saved that for the second Dune.
Greg likes a lot of my letterbox reviews, but that was a great one of his. That's not why he's on there. He's on here because that's fucking funny.
Do you write funny reviews like that, or do you write legit ones, Conan?
No, I'm legit. I say that like it's just no.
I feel like I need to create a fake one that's like just for doing those sort of ones, and then a real one.
That's like antihistamines, and then I watch a movie, and then I try to write a review at the end of it. So they end up kind of weird whenever I do it. I think one of them devolves into an argument about what happened on the A-Team.
Mine was mine for Dune when I first watched it was a true sprawling desert epic worthy of that story genre. Timothée Chalamet made me ask the question, why do we want all of our fantasy heroes to be skinny, pale, Victorian looking white boys? A good amount of excitement, way too much sand, not enough worm.
That was good. I would have picked that for our bit. That was good. That's solid.
I'm renowned for my love of exactly what Forrest just said. I'm renowned, well known for my love of pale, skinny, Victorian. Everyone's like, you know, the deader, the better. Or what's the other one? If they look like a junkie, like, you know, I get those jokes a lot.
Since I realized I'd actually never reviewed Roadhouse, I was originally going to have the review just be that isn't how bouncers work, which I thought would be pretty clever. But I actually put more than just that. So I wouldn't qualify for my own bit. That's what's so great about this bit. Like, I don't write these kind of reviews, but I appreciate them. I appreciate these kind of reviews. They're very funny.
My Roadhouse review was he might have a philosophy degree, but he didn't stop and think very often.
Not wrong. Yeah. I can't. By the way, I hope we get into like the hot doctor topics
to say about
Saturday. Yeah, I can't wait. That's gonna be good.
I've been I went from doing like full reviews to realizing that like no one gives a fuck about your full reviews. So like now I kind of keep them. I don't like it's not one sentence usually, but like I keep it down to a couple sentences because I'm just like no one wants to hear my full. Like they can watch the show if they want to hear my full opinion. You know what I mean? Like
yeah. People go to different platforms to read like full reviews or whatever.
Yeah,
this kind of platform.
I'm also like my letterbox isn't Forrest Miller. It's Movie Night Extravaganza. Like because I joined for the show and then like just kind of it ended up being me. So
well, I mean, you're the host of the show, so ultimately you're the voice of the show, so it makes sense. But yeah, people that are watching this show or listening to whatever should go to Letterboxd and follow Movie Night Extravaganza. And if they want to, they can also follow Andrew or myself, or now apparently Renee. Matthew Film Guy has enough followers, so don't follow him. Just kidding. He's great.
He follows me.
He follows me too. That's not the point. The point is he has enough followers. Keep up, Andrew. Come on, your internet. Reboot your router, motherfucker.
He doesn't do what he does on Twitter, which is he follows one person on Twitter.
I can't tell you.
I think it's his wife. I think, or his. I think it's his wife. It's not his girlfriend, but he follows his partner on.
It's a commitment to an aesthetic, right? It's a commitment to an aesthetic, and all right. No.
Well, that's what Kanye did. Kanye for the longest time when he was going through his mental breakdown phase, only followed Kim Kardashian. That was the only account he followed.
Do you think I think he's still in his mental breakdown.
Now Now he's like a
You're
divorced
saying
guy.
like that phase is over.
He's,
Well,
he's
you know,
having recently. What, a couple of weeks ago, he had a religious thing going on with Marilyn Manson.
yeah.
There's definitely
And
he's
Justin
been all
Bieber.
there. He's never been all
Well, I
there.
don't know. Ever since Kanye took control of Zero Books, it's been a little weird.
Hey, speaking of books, Andrew, is that Chris Hitchens' book? People can buy that shit, right?
Yes,
you can pre-order it now. It is. Yeah, it's comes out next month. So apparently,
Yeah, I
across
had
the
a few
world.
people ask
Artwork by our bro. Wait, this way.
I'm
There we go. I'm figuring this out, man. It's Hollywood Squares, baby. Come on.
I'm kind of mad that you guys didn't appreciate my Zero Books reference, and I just assumed that Kanye West took over for Doug Lane. I thought that was a good
It's
bit.
a good bit.
Never mind. Yeah.
No, it's solid. That's good potential. We'll work on it. It's good. It's a little niche, but you know, it's good. It's for the people it's for. It's okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, I
Anyway.
need to figure out my shit for tonight. I guess we'll go to final thoughts, starting with Renee. One sentence letterbox review of Dune. No, it doesn't actually have to be one sentence. I'm just kidding.
No, I'd give it, if I was giving it a rating, I'd say 9 out of 10. I thought they nailed it. I thought the casting was great. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it second time around. And even if you're not into the books, I think a lot of people are going to appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to seeing how they make the second one work and if it's, where we go from there. But big thumbs for me.
Conan?
Renee, did you say big thumbs? Like just big thumbs?
Big thumbs.
Big thumbs up.
Big thumbs up.
Okay. Is that a thing that they say
Yeah.
down there? Or did you just make that up? They say that?
Do you not say that? Big thumbs.
Big thumbs up, I suppose. Yeah, all right.
Do you know how many marsupials there are in Australia?
Big thumbs always getting in the way of the common man.
Marsupials are the ones with pouches. I'm talking about the ones that have thumbs. You know, primates, I guess. Is the
koalas.
Look, we had 17 people on this panel, right? We got to get in the Australia bits when we can, when and where we can. Anyway,
the pouch is marsupials. Correct. That's kangaroos.
Right. It's not opposable thumbs. It's pouches.
Yeah.
Correcttherecord.com.
I'm a little bit of the R word tonight, I guess. You know?
Republican?
Yeah, a little bit Republican.
This is an epic. And this is an epic in the most grandiose of terms, which should be the actual term that is used for epic, but is frequently misused to be about things that are not in fact epic, but things that people like.
Based.
I have noted many times that I'm a big fan of the man's other movies, and I think that they're all unique and very worth watching. And again, he managed to make a sequel to a movie that's one of my favorites of all time that I was outwardly hostile towards there being a sequel made of, and he managed to make a good film that I dug. So that's almost the impossible task as far as I'm concerned. I think that the quibbles that I have of this movie are small and almost imperceptible compared to the fact that it shows you why you should give a shit about this story rather than telling you. And I'm going to keep harping on that because I think so many movies treat the audience like simpletons and feel like they have to do this video game cutscene exposition at them. And even though I do like the De Laurentiis Lynch Dune, it completely does that, even in the non-extended cut.
And I think I would argue in a different way so I would call what the slow walk that we get now a lot like a marvelization. you know what I mean? Like kind of like the Marvel movie style of it, I think is a little bit different than what David Lynch's version of Dune did, which so I think that they're slightly different things, because I think David Lynch's version of Dune was kind of a self-contained story in a sense of like, someone that didn't really give a fuck about the books trying to create like something for almost for themselves, like someone who, maybe even if they had read it.
Yeah, he also said the studio dictated a lot of what he did in that film, which is another reason why I didn't like it.
And we covered that on that episode, which everyone should watch, and we should not talk about right now because I'm trying to make a point.
Well, but I'm saying, so the way that they do it, the way that it's done in like movies right now, like the Marvelization style of it, I think fucking sucks, and I fucking hate it. But it's like, that slow walk through a plot that that keeps elements of that story while kind of just like holding your hand through the entire thing, because they assume that no one's read whatever they're making a movie based on. Sorry, I just wanted to make that slight, because I've been thinking about that a lot today.
Sure. So a couple things. So specifically to that, before I get back, bring this train back on track, or I'm sorry, bring this harvester back onto the Dune. If I may, with that style of storytelling, this seems like an epic that is very clearly part of a larger story. Something I ranted about in the other Dune, the 80s Dune episode, not ranted so much like Hans Zimmer rant, is that like they basically tried
doing your dad.
They basically tried to fit in the second book in the last 40 minutes of the movie, and it doesn't work. Like, it works in the fact that, like, oh, there's all this weird shit happening. That's cool. That's a cool scene. But it doesn't work because they're trying to compact too much information that you don't have time to emotionally process it. So I appreciate the patience done with this movie. That, like, I mean, even just barely seeing a sandworm is a pretty big deal. And like, I think that works. But the problem is we have now been bred and indoctrined to not have patience with this kind of thing. So this is a movie that is not only requiring patience, but I think will reward patience. And I think people are going to have like the moments like in the second one, and it's going to hit harder and mean more than it would have if they had got the big like Game of Thrones last 2 season style rewards happening earlier on.
And it takes a big fucking pair of brass balls to end it on kind of just walking through the desert. There's no the payoff isn't really there. You know what I mean? Like, and I like this is
the end.
No, but this is
I actually loved it. I was waiting for it.
No, I thought that was rad because well, if I may,
waiting for it. I read a lot of reviews that said that they didn't like the ending, and I was like, I was waiting for it. And I was
because there's an obsession with having to have a level of closure that doesn't necessarily exist in these things if you're splitting a book in half, which is 100% to Conan's point. But like this slow walk through everything where it has to be like there's a payoff at the end of it, you know what I mean? Like is something that we've kind of come to expect. And I don't necessarily think that part of it is Marvel movies. That part of it is just movies a lot of times in general, because they want to kind of give you a self-contained story, especially if they assume maybe you're not going to go see the second one. Like they want to make their money off you now, and it's like they want to give you a self-contained story so you can go, all right, well, I got that. But this is kind of planting a seed, and there's going to be a tree that grows out of that seed 100%. Like maybe they're not going to fulfill the whole thing, and it's going to be a fucked up weird spirally tree, but like still, like, they're planting a seed right now so that later on, when it fully grows, you're like you really are like, oh shit, like that's what they were doing through this. And I also think that, I mean, no pun intended, I guess, doing through this, but it's also like, but at the same time, we have these like mini series that we watch, you know what I mean? Like, and you have like 6 episodes of something, and then they see whether you like it or not. And then they create like another season of it. Like, so it's not really that radical in the sense of like when it's on TV and you see a short story and they're like, well, let's leave it on a cliffhanger and see if people respond to this. We don't have any kind of reaction to that. We're just like, oh, all right, well, it'll come back. You know what I mean? Like in this case, when it's a movie and you're like, you know, people are dissatisfied with it. Like, fuck you for being dissatisfied with it. Like, you don't get that. Like, you don't deserve, like, you don't necessarily, like, it's not like you're guaranteed an ending that you like. You know what I mean? Like, maybe test it out and see if you like it, and then give somebody a full dose of whatever it is after the fact.
Absolutely. So I like the ending. I think the ending is good in the fact that if you don't like, so we had Jeremy and Jane on, who are both fantastic, and they're both like uber fans of the books, and they can like rattle off all the stuff that I'm like, look, I've been drinking, so I'm not gonna be able to rattle off half this stuff. But like on the best of days, like I wouldn't be able to touch their like knowledge of the mythos.
And I'm still drinking.
There you go. But what I like is that you don't have to know any of that stuff to enjoy the movie. And I think if you don't know any of that stuff and you watch this movie, you're like, oh, is this kid going to be able to like, what's going on here? Like, he's hanging out with these like natives now. And like, okay, what's happening? Like, you don't know he's going to become the Muad'Dib, that his name is a killing word, like, you know, type of guy. In fact,
he released the Infamous. Then they released, you know, a bunch of other albums. Right? You said Mobb Deep, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. But in fact, like, if you as you watch the movie, like the way, and again, I think I misjudged his performance originally. That it seems like he's not up to the task. It's sort of like, this fucking kid. Like, who gives a shit about this kid? And then it's sort of like, oh no, but wait, he turns into something incredibly special because he has these outsized experience outside of his like royal privilege, where he actually gets to see like, oh, these people are oppressed, and I'm not going to let that happen. I'm going to take the lessons that I've learned as like the, you know, John F. Kennedy style child of privilege, and I'm going to apply that towards helping people that are disenfranchised, much as my father has tried to do. And you don't get to see those results. And it's such a bold move for a modern movie to be like, hey, I don't know, he's fucking hanging out with these guys now. Like, there's a worm, that's cool, right? Anyway, check you later. Like,
I'm glad I'm not the only one that kind of felt the John F. Kennedy thing too.
No, it was
this specific,
like,
yeah, like I
it was
well, I mean,
notable.
knowing like the time period, obviously, you know, like that the books originally came out, you're like, all right, well, there's that connection to it. But like something about the performance in this, I'm like, yeah, no, I feel like there's like a JFK connection. I didn't know whether it was all the books that I've been reading about like JFK recently, or whether it was like exclusively there. So, you know, I feel validated, I guess, by
So and like, look, I'm not trying to get into a conversation about privilege, but ultimately the Paul Atreides story is about a child of privilege, like becoming a champion of the people. And it's actually not a fucking white savior story. Anyone says that's a fucking simpleton, and they should shut the fuck up forever.
Yeah, because he's Irish.
That isn't what it is.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. But I think that I think the movie does a great job of showing that. And if you're willing to accept it on the face of it and outside of it, from the books and from the movies, like, people that love the books, there's so much to love here. Like said, you know, earlier on, 9 out of 10, right? You know, agreed. But the thing is, you don't have to know that to be like, wow, that was crazy. There was a big ass fucking giant worm. They're on this crazy planet. These people are being oppressed. There's all this bullshit going on. And like, you know, Zendaya's in this movie, apparently. Like, I mean, you know, like, it works. It works
dreams I walk with you.
It works in a way that I was cautiously optimistic, and I was very happy to be sort of vindicated in that way.
I think that there's I mean, like 100% this is there in the 60s one, like fully, like, and I mean, I haven't read the books, but like, you know, you can tell through like people, you know, the conversation about it, and I've watched Frank Herbert talk about what he was trying to achieve with it quite a bit, like, and there's the colonialism conversation, which 100% was going on like at that time, right? And that's also the connection to JFK as someone who, for the first time, really, I mean, after like the Eisenhower presidency, not to go into it too deeply, but kind of realized that, you know, the third worldist version of the world wasn't just an East-West like first world, second world, the dichotomy. It really there's a third world that which takes up most of the world, like you know what I mean, like Africa, Asia, like that is separate from that, and so that colonialism conversation, like shines through with most famously in Dune. And I think that we've kind of had a reappraisal of colonialism and imperialism as two
we
different
should.
concepts.
Sure,
Yeah,
as we should.
but like so in this context now, because that's not a conversation that was going on in the 80s, because Reagan was a bringing up my good friend Ronald Reagan. Well, in the 80s, it wasn't really a conversation you were allowed to have. We fucking invaded Grenada. We invaded like a lot of different places, and we had Vietnam syndrome, which was after the Vietnam War, which literally was us taking over for French imperialism and invading a country that didn't do shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like Ho Chi Minh was literally a leader that was like, I admire George Washington. I want you guys to know, like, I admire George Washington. I really enjoy like the Declaration of Independence. I need you guys to know, like, this. I'm trying to wage the same struggle against the French that you guys waged against the English. Where you're like, no, we don't want anything to be disrupted because of the Cold War. Like, we're going to fucking fully invade Vietnam and then kill as many people as we can. Like, you know what I mean? Like that was happening as Dune was being written. But the David Lynch version taking place in the 80s, we kind of had Vietnam syndrome in the US, which president after president tried to invade different places to be like, hey, let's break our fear of invading more places because we lost a war for the first time. And in that context, you can't really talk about that colonial element. You can't really talk about the imperialist element of it because we're in such a weird space. Now we're kind of having this reappraisal of colonial and neo-colonial structures that it feels like this is a good time for Dune to come out, I think, again.
Well, sure. And that's a lot to unpack and practically a whole separate podcast and a statement. But that said,
this is movie night extravaganza, you know.
Right. Yeah. I don't disagree with any of it. What I think is, and I hammer the point home again, this is the story, the complicated, political situation where you have someone who's come from a position of privilege and power, using that privilege and power to decide, I'm going to do something better with this and make people's lives better. And I think that's an incredible message. And I think that actually might be one of the reasons why people are engaging with it that are like younger than any of the folks on this panel that like are like, hey, I can fuck with this. Because you know what? I can fuck with this. And I already know this. I know it turns out. I've read the book.
There's a direct connection to a certain period of time, which is like when I think that colonialism and imperialism had just started, and I was thinking about the ivory trade, and I'm sorry that this is the level of deepness that I go to when I think about things, but I was thinking about the worm kind of being the center of everything, and having to actually take the spice from the worm itself. Or like the casings, and like the ivory trade, which going into Africa, literally having to take tusks off of elephants. Like it feels like, all right, it's called spice, and like we're kind of put into like the notion of thinking about the spice trade. But at the same time, like ivory is a much more now at least a much more expensive commodity, and it's a commodity that like really you have to take from a giant animal itself to actually have as something that people use for things at this time. So like there really feels like there's a lot of connections to that, to a long gone era, but also like the existence of things that are still being used as justification for imperialism or for poaching.
And it's a commodity, right? And that's worth mentioning, but also just from a sheer having nothing to do with any of that, I like that the worms were bigger in this one.
Well, I'm sorry for going deeper with that.
We don't have to apologize.
We love big worms here.
We love them. We love them, folks. We love the big worms. We love the small worms too, but we really love the big worms better than any. Anyway,
hey, really?
I suppose that's my closing statements, and I was very impressed with it, and I was skeptical but cautiously optimistic, and I was happy to be proven curious rather than judgmental.
I really didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I did, because I feel like when things are kind of universally loved or accepted, which isn't the fault of anyone that really was involved with it, but like when things are treated to that level, sometimes I feel like there's no way it can really live up to what you expect it's going to or what you're told it's going to. And this movie like still did, which is insane.
Are you sure you're not Gen X, by the way? Anyway.
Andy, really fucking old Andy.
Yeah, I got to make this quick because my wife needs to go to bed, and me podcasting here is keeping her up. So, but the thing is I will say this movie is a good start. But I also feel like you can't necessarily judge the movie because we unlike Paul cannot see the futures. We can only see the potential futures. Are the sequels going to be?
You can't flip your
like
you can't
Game
flip
of
your eyes up
Thrones?
into your head, because I can do that.
Yeah, but you can see the future when you do it. Taking enough drugs.
Only the important
and
topics,
I've
right?
taken plenty of drugs.
But like you know, so like to fully appreciate the movie, it's really hard because we only have like half of one book, you know, The Fall of House Atreides, and as a standalone movie, does it work? Mostly, I'd say that there's a few, you know, I don't feel it ends like the, you know, as a standalone movie. If we are not getting anything more, does it have a satisfying ending? Maybe, I don't know. It depends on your taste, but overall, though, like once we have the sequels, will that change my opinion of this movie? Absolutely, we will see it. If it's going to be like Game of Thrones or like the original Lord of the Rings, you know, which will it be?
I like the part where Paul Atreides said, "Ich bin ein Berliner." Anyway, my
These
final thought.
sandworms are an inexhaustible resource, and they will help us achieve prosperity throughout Arrakis.
At first, the Fremen seemed to be challenging a colonial system, but now they've taken it too far. My final thought is, I serve only one master, and his name is Shai Hulud. Anyway, we will be back on Saturday talking about, you know, Paul Atreides of the 80s, Patrick Swayze. Well, no, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to include Kyle MacLachlan. I overdosed him.
Dune
I
starring
overdosed on
Patrick Swayze.
I would.
Yeah, I would totally fuck with that.
I'm Sam Elliott. Fuck with Sam Elliott all the way.
I mean, Dune starring
what about
I'm into that too.
what about Patrick Swayze as Paul Atreides, and then you have you know, his father as Sam Elliott, and that would be you know what I mean?
Sam Elliott's Leto. Yeah,
yeah. You're my son. Anyway, all right. Well, my
as
one
long as he's got the
master-
mustache. The mustache is required. Anyway, go on.
My one master,
Yeah, mustache.
Shai Hulud. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.